Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 12, Episode number 67. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us here on this Friday show, this Christmas Eve show. Let me be maybe not the first, but one of many to wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays. And the same to you, Dave. How you doing? Is Santa coming tonight to the Dave Bryan household?
I've been so bad throughout my life, Santa. I'm on the permanent naughty list now. So I ruined that years ago there. But happy belated Festivus to you. Did you have did you air your grievances yesterday?
I did not. I will say, if Santa does make a stop in Vegas tonight, I think he wants to get you a gift of tab management. All I heard on our call this morning, or a little bit before we started recording, was let me close this window and this window and this window. Sounds like you have 87 tabs going on over there, Dave.
I do, but on the flip side, I have like 400 gigs of RAM, so I don't feel like I'm properly using it if I don't have all these windows open, and plus I don't multitask very well on top of it, so I got to keep a lot of these things open. But I go through at night. I set things on Twitter and all like that, and because of it leaves a lot of unnecessary windows open. I get to doing this, and I have like 86 windows open here. But happy holidays to everybody. Thank you for listening in, and we also have we're able to get a guest lineup on this Christmas Eve as well too.
Yeah, we were. And in a little bit, we'll talk to Adam Teicher, ESPN reporter, covers the Chiefs, of course, for ESPN. You can follow him on Twitter at Adam Teicher. He has a new book coming out on Amazon called Kingdom, covering the Chiefs Super Bowl winning season. So he'll plug that book a little bit later in the show, as well as give us a preview of the Chiefs and their COVID situation and everything that's happening over at Arrowhead. Dave, speaking of COVID, everyone's favorite topic to talk about the day before Christmas, the Steelers unfortunately have had several players go on the COVID list, I believe 5 in total over the last couple of days. I'll just read off the names here. It's offensive tackle Zach Banner, linebacker Marcus Allen, linebacker Devin Bush, nose tackle Isaiah Buggs, and running back Anthony McFarland. Nose tackle Montravius Adams, placed on COVID last week, remains there. We'll see if he gets activated in time for Sunday's game or not. And also Malcolm Brigden, a guard on the practice squad, is on the COVID list. So that makes it 7 in total, 5 added over the last 48 hours. And of course, some key names there, including starters like Devin Bush and Isaiah Buggs, who could have had a role this week if he was not on the COVID list.
Yeah, obviously you hate to see anybody's name on these lists here, but I think when you look at the totality of it, Devin Bush is a starter, but he hasn't played overly well this season, and Marcus Allen obviously has logged some defensive snaps. A core special teamer, that would obviously be probably where they miss him the most there. Isaiah Buggs and Anthony McFarland, one of them, forget which one. I think Buggs hasn't dressed, I don't think, since week 11, and McFarland since week 12, or do I have those flipped? I know it's one of the other. Both those players have not suited up in recent weeks here. And in fact, I think before even going on the COVID list, Buggs was on this week's injury report, even though he was seemed to be trending in the right direction there. Zach Banner obviously hasn't played much of any this season. And who else am I missing that's on that list?
Those were the 5 that were recently added, and of course still Adams and Bridgeton on the practice squad. Yeah,
so I guess we'll see what happens. I would have thought Montravius Adams would have been off by now, but still time for that to happen. And you would think if he does, there's probably a good chance of him maybe being able to suit up, especially if Buggs doesn't make it back, because it feels like they might be one short right now, right?
Yeah. But you're worried about the lack of practice time with Adams, because this guy might not practice, for 2 weeks basically.
Right. So, I guess it should be or it could be worse, and we'll just keep our fingers crossed because I think at the time you and I are talking right now, it's 7:30 Pacific, 10:30 Eastern time. Now is about the time where we would find out if any players are going to get added to that list. But hopefully they have that. Hopefully that little run through issue that they've had with the COVID is now ended in that locker room, but still plenty of time between now and kickoff time for sure.
Yeah, hopefully no names get added and the guys on there are feeling better and doing okay. And for the Chiefs, obviously we know they've had a big COVID situation. It seems like it's calmed down for them. I don't believe they've added a player on COVID in the last 2 days, so any initial concern and fears about this game potentially getting moved should be pretty quelled by now. That seems almost impossible to happen, barring something dramatic and unforeseen. Chiefs did get back a couple of players activated yesterday. That included defensive lineman Chris Jones, one of the best interior players in all of football. So cornerback Charvarius Ward still on the COVID list, include names like Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. So their status unknown for Sunday's game. Again, Saturday, the big day to know what their status could be and if they'll have a chance to play on Sunday.
Boy, that and we talked to Adam Teicher about this as well too. A huge unknown right now when it comes to a lot of those key players on that list, and obviously the new COVID protocols. It really makes this game a lot harder to handicap here, not so much from the Steelers side as it is on the Chiefs side, because, I mean, let's face it here, if the Chiefs don't have guys like Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and even their backup tight end Blake Bell is on the COVID list right now. I mean, that really shapes things, especially offensively when it comes to the Chiefs. Now, you would think they still have Patrick Mahomes, and that's obviously a big deal there, but it does make this game tougher to handicap right now, not knowing if they're going to get their two of their biggest playmakers back in Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, and not knowing how the having a good firm grip on these on the time frames when it comes to these new COVID protocols makes it extremely tough.
Yeah, one guy we know that will not play for the Chiefs on Sunday, that's their starting kicker, Harrison Butker. He is unvaccinated, so he is not going to have any chance to be able to return for Sunday's game. So Elliott Fry will start for the Chiefs. Rest of them, we'll just have to wait and see, I guess, on Christmas morning or Christmas afternoon if they get activated or not.
Absolutely. So it'll be a busy If people need something to keep them entertained on Saturday, on Christmas Day, we'll be busy over at Steelers Depot tracking all this stuff.
Definitely. All right, Dave, let's move on to the injury report for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll get the final report a little bit later today on Friday, but for Thursday's injury report, 2 players not practicing. That was tight end Pat Freiermuth with a concussion and defensive end Chris Wormley with a groin injury suffered late in the win over the Titans. Practicing in full on Thursday included Joe Hayden, Buddy Johnson, Kevin Rader. Ben was limited, and Dan Moore Jr. was limited with an illness, so we'll have to see what's happening there again, given all the COVID circumstances. So Freiermuth and Wormley not looking good for either of those guys for Sunday. I
would definitely term both of those guys as questionable as we sit here right now. I don't know what way it's going to go other than that. I wonder how Freiermuth had a concussion a couple of weeks ago that he was able to come back from and clear protocol on. I kind of wonder maybe if they might be a little bit, being they're so close together. I mean, look, either you clear protocol or you don't, right? But but within that, I wonder if there's a micro decision of, hey, he just had one not too long ago. Maybe we need to be a little bit more, maybe we need to give him the weekend off, so to speak. But who knows how they handle that? And Mike Tomlin's always been up front. Is look, we'll follow league protocol and go from there. But he has not practiced obviously these first 2 days. That's not great. I mean, you would think by now he would have been at least in the limited category there. So it is indeed not looking great for him. But stranger things have indeed happened when it comes to that. Now, when it comes to Wormley and that groin, that I guess my history calls for me to speculate on that. He was tugging away at his groin late in that game. So that's not great with 2 practices missed now. Makes you kind of wonder if he's going to make it on Sunday. For him to do so, though, you would think he would at least be able to practice on a limited basis on Friday there. And as far as the illness goes with Dan Moore Jr. there, who knows? Keep your fingers crossed.
Yeah, with Wormley, I think Wormley may have a better chance than Frymuth because you got to go back to practice. To pass concussion protocol. That's one of the steps is to practice to exert yourself and see how you feel the next day if you're symptomatic or not in terms of the concussion aspect of things. So I really doubt Frymuth's going to get back in time. Wormley probably not, but I think he might have a chance if he perks up late in the week here. If he cannot play though, Keith Butler said Isaiah Loudermilk will start at left defensive end. And your defensive line really gets thin there because if Buggs is out, and he probably will be, and if Adams doesn't play, and if Wormley doesn't play, then A, you're going to have to probably elevate somebody, and B, you're just really thin overall, even thinner than you have been, and you were thin to begin with.
Yeah, this is already a front that struggles, against the run for sure on top of it. So, and you worry about Wormley getting into the game and maybe overdoing it too much as well too. Mm-hmm. So, not a great week for the Steelers front. I mean, look, it hasn't been a couple of great weeks for the Steelers front overall. A lot of rotation going on over there. I don't know. Do you get the other Davis up this week or
and your Archibong come back?
Yeah, Archibong. That might be an option there as well too. Needless to say, I have a feeling we're going to have an elevation or three on Saturday for the Steelers before they travel out of town.
Yep, not good news for the 32nd ranked run defense and a literal historically bad Pittsburgh Steelers run defense to lose Wormley, who has played well this season. I think he's really flown under the radar, and you've been talking about that for months now. He's had a strong season, not to the Tuitt level, of course, but he has really played well. Had a good game against Tennessee last week, and so to lose him just compounds an already difficult situation.
Yeah, he's a guy that we talked about. Boy, he owes the Steelers some snaps after last season there, and boy, he's made them up for sure. He flashes almost every game in some capacity, whether it be against the run or as a pass rush. Boy, you turn around 6 sacks. Who would have predicted that for Chris Wormley this season here? So who knew that we'd get into the week 16 of the season way back before the season started, thinking, man, what a huge loss it would be if Chris Wormley can't play in this game. But I mean, that's where we are. There's nowhere, at least the run defense can't get 33rd in the league.
They're trying though.
They are trying, but it would be a pretty big loss. I think we both agree if he's unable to suit up. Now look, Loudermilk has played. He's given some good snaps, but there's still the inexperience there overall. And, you probably want to kind of limit and rotate him out as much as possible when you can. But if you don't have Wormley in there, then you're going to have guys like Hayward and Carlos Davis and Loudermilk probably play a large portion of snaps. And then with 2 games coming up against key games in division as well, too.
Yeah, it just really strains. Like Loudermilk has improved. He's not played poorly this season, but you're now asking a backup to play starter snaps. Now you're asking a reserve to play backup snaps. There's a domino effect there that has really impacted this team greatly this season. So
we already went into this thing thinking, going into the season thinking, maybe Loudermilk gets 100 snaps this year. He's well exceeded. that number by now just goes to show you that. You just don't know how seasons are going to go sometimes, and how injuries, and especially now with COVID, can really impact things and really, really test your depth.
Absolutely, Dave. All right, a lot of news here for Friday, so I'll kind of keep rolling along here. The 2022 Pro Bowl rosters were announced Wednesday night. 2 Steelers selected and voted to the 2022 Pro Bowl, which we played out in your neck of the woods in Vegas this February, Dave, as those guys are, of course, T.J. Watt and Cam Hayward. So kudos to Watt and Hayward. No-brainer decisions there. I know there's been some disappointment about the lack of Minkah Fitzpatrick, the lack of Diontae Johnson, the lack of Chris Boswell. But I think those guys were in tough races. I'm not shocked to see those guys not make the Pro Bowl, but well-deserved and obvious choices are Watt and Cam Hayward.
Absolutely, and I know a lot of people are upset about some of those other names you mentioned. Now, look, I think that you can make a good argument that Diontae Johnson could have had one of those wide receiver spots over a guy like maybe Keenan Allen. But the name guy, Keenan Allen is a name guy, and like it or not, even though fan voting only counts, 1/3 of that, a named guy like Keenan Allen is going to probably carry a little bit more weight league-wide, especially when if players and coaches pull up stats real quick and see how these guys are ranked. That name of Keenan Allen is probably going to jump out, to them before a name like Diontae Johnson. Now, that doesn't take anything away from Diontae Johnson whatsoever. I know he kind of, judging by his response on Twitter, kind of feels like people, that they slept on him. I get it. I do think that you could make a legitimate argument that he got snubbed, and even you see the ESPN snub list, he got snubbed off the snub list.
Oh, did he? He wasn't even on there.
Yeah, he was snubbed from the ESPN snub list there. But look, this guy's got 1,000 yards on the season, and the way this offense is playing this season, for him to have the catches and the yak and the yardage and what has he got, like 5 or 6 touchdowns? I think that really speaks to the season that he has had with him, because bless his heart, a lot of his yards have had to come after the catch, right? Because the Steelers just don't throw down the field as much in certain situations there with him. His route running, man, just weekly when you pull up the all 22. And by the way, our own Tyler Wise, I think, has a video out this morning, I think, on the wide receivers there. If you get some time before the holidays, I think it's about 20 minutes or so right there. Watch that. Tyler does a fantastic job of picking out some intricacies from the Tennessee Titans game, and there's a lot of good stuff on tape when it comes to Diontae Johnson, obviously, from that game alone there. So you could make a good argument that, yes, Diontae Johnson got snubbed. Anybody else on the roster, I mean, I don't see it.
Yeah, it's some of the quirks as well. Obviously, only one kicker gets voted in, so Tucker's always going to win as long as he's kicking the way that Justin Tucker kicks. And only one free safety, which is so weird. 2 strong safeties get in, only one free safety. That went to Kevin Byard to the Titans, which is well-deserved. He's got, 5, 6 interceptions on the season. So understand Minka not getting the nod there. Yeah, I think Johnson certainly had a case to be made. I think he was deserving of it, but I don't think it was highway robbery that he didn't get in. There's a ton of good receivers in the NFL. I mean, Diggs and Allen are very talented guys, and I'm sure Bills fans and Chargers fans would have been just as upset if those guys did not get in the way the Steelers fans are about Diontae Johnson. So I think his future's bright. I think Johnson's had a great third season, a desperately needed, strong third season, and that's the most important part of all.
Right, and the drops are down, and I mean, just all the way around, he has become. I mean, he's top 10, right, in the NFL. When you think wide receivers right now, he's got to be top 10.
And I'd probably put him on the outside of it. I mean, just given all the talent at the top, he's probably, I would say, top 15.
Where does he rank in route running?
Route running, he's up there. He'd be more around, probably definitely top 10. I don't have a great list. I mean, still great route runners like Diggs and Adams and Keenan Allen. So he's probably around top 6-ish.
All right. So, but you definitely put him in a top 15 overall then, or no?
I'd have to make a list, but I think top 15 is probably what I would safely say. Top 10, though, might be pushing it again just because there was just so much talent at receiver. I mean, you got, all the obvious names, Justin Jefferson, Adams, Hopkins. I mean, names, Cooper Kupp. I mean, those are just some obvious names right there that are make up half that top 10.
The Steelers don't have a long history when it comes to wide receivers on them second contracts and paying, that high amount of money. Yeah, they you have the Antonio Brown thing and all like that. But man, you look at the cupboard right now when it comes to the Steelers wide receivers, and you look at the guys going to be free agents. I mean, it feels like you would expect them to get Diontae Johnson locked up this offseason, right?
Yeah, I know we had that conversation a couple of weeks ago, and I kind of hemmed and hawed a bit. I certainly think there's a chance. Again, it comes down to exactly what he's looking for. If he's looking for top 10 to 12 money, then I think a deal gets done. If he really wants to go forward and try to get top 5 money and capitalize on this great season he's had, it might be tougher to get done. So I certainly think it's a possibility, but I'm not going to guarantee anything.
Boy, the Steelers have, it's so hard to find a good X, that has the route running and footwork ability that he has. And then also, look, he doesn't cause any problems. I think he's been a good kid overall. And it will be interesting just from the historical aspect of the Steelers and the position, right?
Yeah, but I would say two things. A, the Steelers' philosophy is to keep good talent. I mean, generally, just regardless of position, they want to draft, develop, retain. And then B, I think they kind of had maybe that philosophy was we can let these receivers go and draft new ones because you have a Hall of Fame prime Big Ben throwing to them. It's going to be a different story when there's a rookie or a veteran guy throwing to them. The quarterback isn't going to make those receivers look as nice, the new receiver that shows up. So I think you want to retain your top receiver talent for that quarterback transition.
It certainly will be a talking point for us from the end of the season on.
Absolutely. All right. And we'll see if any guys get in. I don't think there's any alternates as Steelers, right? There are no Steeler current alternates, but injuries and Super Bowl things could always bump guys up a bit.
I haven't seen any list on that. Sometimes some media guys get that. We don't get access to that. So some of that stuff will leak out quickly. Obviously, if some of these wide receivers A, get injured, or B, have to play in the playoff, Super Bowl or along those lines.
And Miles Killebrew, he could have been a Pro Bowler, I thought.
That's a good
block
point.
punts this season.
That's a good point. And that's a guy the Steelers probably want to think about locking up, don't they?
Mm-hmm. I would, and I think he'd probably want to come back here. He seems really happy in Pittsburgh and likes playing for Danny Smith, and so it seems to be a good fit.
Right.
All right, Dave, one other piece of news here. I think we touched on this Wednesday, but there was some more finality to it after our podcast on Wednesday. According to ESPN's Adam Rittenberg, it is now going to be official that Adrian Clem, after the Steelers season ends, is going to go to Oregon to take the offensive line job there. So it's a rare lateral move to college, from NFL to college. You don't see that one too often at all. I think according to, I believe it was Jerry Dulac, Clem still has a year left on his contract. He's not being shown the door. He's just voluntarily leaving to go to Oregon. So the Steelers will be looking for a new head offensive line coach in 2022.
Yeah, I'm not so sure I would be planning my exit out of there right now either. Look, a lot of people will look at what was happening with this offensive line right now and say, good riddance. But, the dinner's only as good as the quality of the ingredients sometimes that you're cooking with there. And there's not a lot of grade A 5-star ingredients that he's having to work with these last couple seasons here. So I'm not going to be surprised either way. I don't think I'm going to be crushed either way. You just hate to see the quick turnover, especially with your younger guys on the roster here. But I mean, it's part of the business on top of it. But I have a feeling that there's not being a lot of tears shed around Steelers Nation right now to read the news that Clem will potentially or likely to be gone after the season.
Yeah, I'm not crushed by it, but I'm not dunking on Clem the way that some fans are. It's been 1 year as him as the head offensive line coach, and as you said, there's been such turnover there that I don't think anyone could have expected immediate or great success in 2021 with this group. You lose to Castro, which you didn't even expect when you were going through the offseason process. You have to kind of scramble late, and you have had injuries. You're on your fifth string left guard. You got two rookies starting. So, I mean, it's hard to really even properly evaluate Clem. I think from a foundational level about finding athletes, getting to be a more physical, nastier group, they've accomplished that. So there's some small strides there and some overall kind of team building regards. But it just is interesting, again, to see Clem go from NFL head O-line coach to college O-line coach. He was a really good college recruiter and had a lot of success at UCLA before some scandal got him out of college football. So maybe he just wants to go back to college. Maybe he likes the environment better. He's a West Coast guy. So maybe he wants to be out West again. But just the fact that he's voluntarily leaving, at least appears to be leaving on his own volition, is just surprising in and of itself.
Right.
And then in terms of replacements, I mean, we'll see what happens. But based on what this team has done in recent years with Surratt going from assistant to head offensive line coach, and same with Adrian Clem this year, my strong guess is that Chris Morgan will just get elevated to become the head offensive line coach. He's a longtime offensive line coach with Atlanta and a strong zone scheme principles. So my suspicion is that Chris Morgan will be running the show next year.
That would probably be the most logical based on history and all like that. Plus, Morgan has been an offensive line coach before, so that wouldn't be new to him either there. And at least he knows what they're dealing with, the younger players, as I mentioned once again. So it would be a logical stepping stone that way.
Yeah, and I know some people will be upset about that because it's the in-house move again. But I mean, Morgan did just get here. It's not like he's been here for years the way that Surratt was. So I think it'd be unfair to. I mean, it is technically an in-house move, but I think it's not the traditional of Keith Butler going from linebackers coach to DC or Fichtner going from positional coach to OC. I think this is a different situation.
Right.
All right, Dave, let's get into, speaking of the coordinators, let's talk about what Matt Canada and Keith Butler had to say on Thursday when speaking with the media. And this week's been really interesting. I'll start with Canada here, Dave, about Chase Claypool and his lack of usage in the fourth quarter of that Titans game on Sunday. And there's been just some misreporting, misinformation about...
No!
Yeah, you clutching your pearls over there?
Oh, carry on.
Yeah, that Claypool did not play at all in the fourth quarter, and was he benched, and yada, yada. Let's just start with what Matt Canada said. He was asked about that. Actually, first question he was asked yesterday was, why did Claypool not play late in that game? And Canada said it was just part of the rotation, and that's just what he chalked it up to, rotation overall. Just for clarity's sake, Claypool did play in the fourth quarter. He played 3 snaps. They only ran like 10 plays total in the fourth quarter. They had less than 50 plays in the entire game. So to me, this is short answer here. This is much ado about nothing. This is kind of fishing for a story because of all the Claypool, stories and saga over the last, 2-3 weeks. But the media is kind of running with this, to use your word here, narrative.
And look, I mean, could there have been an instance where maybe there was some heated exchange on the sideline? I mean, sure. I mean, that stuff happens probably more than we even know that it happens, right?
And to be clear, that's Jerry Dulac, who had a report, we'll call it, about a potential argument with a coach, but it was so wishy-washy in terms of the reporting, it's hard to even know what he's actually trying to say there.
Properly give that context there, Alex.
I got to find the quote.
Find the quote and explain to people what to look for in that quote that makes it kind of, is this a story? Is it not a story there?
Yeah, I know you had written it up. So this is from Jerry Dulac on Wednesday for the PPG, talking about Claypool's lack of action in the fourth quarter. He says, quote, according to a team source, Claypool appeared to get into an argument with one of the assistant coaches on the sideline that could have led to him remaining on the bench in the fourth quarter. Now, is that possible? It is possible. Obviously, no one knows what happens, but let's all read the qualifiers here. Claypool appeared to get into an argument that could have led to him remaining on the bench. So we don't know for sure if he got into an argument. We don't know for sure if he got put on the bench because of an argument that may or may not have happened. So there's just a lot of unknown there in terms of, what the actual reporting here is. And again, Claypool did play in the fourth quarter of that game. And we went through our charting that Tom Mead does over the last 3 weeks. Chase Claypool has not been playing on like the first drive in the fourth quarter where James Washington has come in. And so it seems to reason that's been part of this team's rotation where Washington gets kind of the first drive of the fourth quarter. So I'm just not seeing enough evidence there to really conclude that Claypool was benched in this one.
And it's good to have this. This is part of the reason why we do some of this charting too, because it lets us easily sort these things out and know, look, and Tom really does a fantastic job of that. We can search by who was in motion on a play, who was lined up at what side, and all without having to go play by play for tape. So that gives us, Alex, what happened with Chase Claypool lined up on the how many times was Chase Claypool lined up on the right side in a slot? Well, we don't have to go through sit there endlessly scrolling through the tape to find that. We just look at we can sort it, and then we can go right to the play with the timestamp and find that. And that's always been my theory behind doing that, because I've always felt like not only having the tape but be able to at a glance look at a charting of a play and get a general sense of an idea what happened on that play just from it jogging my memory with that. And with us having where people are lined up, who was on the field for each play, it also lets us quickly jump into conversations like, he wasn't on the field in the fourth quarter. Oh yeah, he was.
Right. Yeah. There was a tweet yesterday that Claypool did not play the final 19 minutes of that game. Just a clearly false statement.
Right. But we're not media. but probably never will be recognized. But that's where we have the advantage over these guys, because not only do we watch the tape 20 times, we log it and chart it as well. Could there be something? Could something have happened on the sideline that maybe got Claypool 3 or 4 less snaps? It's obviously possible, but when you are able to pull up like you did yesterday of what's happened, transpired, to kind of see the trend of what has happened in some of these games, there has been a rotation there. And why, just from a logical standpoint, you would think that Claypool already coming kind of out of the quasi doghouse, if you will, after the Vikings game, that he's not going to get him seat. He doesn't have the resume to be getting in any kind of yelling matches on the sideline there. Now, did he have the best of games prior to the fourth quarter in that game against the Titans? Absolutely not. You didn't catch the deep ball along the sideline early on. Obviously didn't get the touchdown in the end zone, but did draw a pass interference play. So that's in essence a completion, hidden yardage on him. But then he has the ugly drop over on the left-hand side on the wide receiver screen there. But right now, there's just no reason to think that he was in any kind of doghouse.
Yeah, and just make no mistake, this is not supposed to be a full-throated defense of Claypool from Dave or I. He's had a disappointing sophomore season. He's been very immature this year. He's certainly got a lot of growing up to do. But I just kind of look at it and get the feeling there's this piling on narrative of, okay, let's kind of have this story because it's cheap and it gets a lot of clicks because, Claypool got benched, he got into an argument, and it's easy to run with. If you really look into things, then you kind of see a different read of this story. So again, no one knows for sure what happened, but I'm just giving you the facts that Claypool did play in the fourth quarter. This team barely had snaps in this game, and there's been a pretty clear rotation about Claypool not playing early in fourth quarters.
We have some breaking news. Montravius Adams is back off the Steelers' COVID list as of Friday.
Yeah, Dave, that's definitely good news from Montravius Adams coming back. That's going to help out Pittsburgh quite a bit. And just as another quick aside here, the Chiefs are getting back tight end Blake Bell off of the reserve COVID list. And so that's not the marquee name that they're looking forward and hoping to get back, but that is certainly one of those guys and will be a big player if Kelsey cannot get activated.
And we would assume that if Montravius can practice today, he'll be in uniform, right? You would think?
He should be. It's just a question of what that role is going to be, I guess. A snap count. Will he start? Maybe there's some question there. But just given the injuries to Wormley and Bugs being on COVID, he'll probably almost have to play.
I would think so as well, too. So we'll see if this team can get anybody else back in the coming days and the Chiefs as well, too. So going to be interesting next, 48 hours or so.
Absolutely. All right, Dave, anything else from Matt Canada? That seemed to be the big story there. Anything else that he had to say besides the Claypool stuff that caught your attention?
It takes 11 guys to get an explosive play, right?
Yeah, just Canada's answers. I made the joke. He has the "I'm just a Bill" statement there of going through how a run game works. The blockers have to block, and the runners have to run, and the wide receivers have to get involved. But the explosive runs have not been part of the Steelers' lingo for quite some time.
No, and there are.
And you get into fights about this. I'm going to start writing about it because all I know is it's going to lead to some big fight on Twitter hours later.
People hate talking or they hate facts like that. Where's my John Facenda voice here? There are 32 teams.
Oh my God, that's pretty good. That was good for Facenda.
Was that pretty good?
I liked it. Yeah.
All right. There are 32 teams in the NFL, and 31 of them have runs of 30 yards or longer. The one team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. 31 teams in the NFL have at least one run of 30 yards or longer, and the one team that does not right now are the Steelers. So probably not shocking there. And I think you start all this too, really, because you put out there once again, you put your article, I think that the Steelers have 6 explosive runs right on the season, and 3 of them are non-running backs, and obviously we are headed toward Mason Rudolph having the season-long run so far. So, look, like it or not, explosive plays matter. I don't care. Go back and look at, over time and Super Bowl champions, at least in what I would call the last 15 years or so, how important explosive run. Hey, I'm a ruin Christmas for everybody here. The NFL, right, and it's been this way for a long time. The NFL is all about explosive plays and turnovers. Mm-hmm. I might as well have just told all of you that there is no Santa Claus.
Hey, Santa's real.
Okay.
That's what my mom says.
All right.
Don't go breaking my heart, babe.
Explosive plays matter. And yeah, look, I mean, is it a huge thing that teams don't get a lot of long explosive runs and won't? I mean, you're not going to go into, I don't think, anyone's season and see a team have 20 explosive runs in a season. But how big are those runs that are not only explosive runs, but are the double and triple ones that end up in the end zone? It's nice to have one or two of those a season because those can change games. I really think now that the Steelers have a type runner that they do in Najee Harris, who is not going to be an explosive play producer on the ground in the NFL. If he does, then holy moly, did they, you really got something to talk about because he wasn't that player. I think this team going past this season really needs to get some lightning to go along with that thunder because they need to, not only start getting him off the field more moving forward as much as they can, they need to get someone on the field that can home run it.
But that's the thing. Like, you draft a guy like Harris so he does not come off the field. So he's like Le'Veon Bell, where he's just your 85% snap guy.
Well, then you get what you get. You get what you get for. In fact, the other stat that that we have circulating here these last couple of days is explosive runs of 40 yards or more. The Steelers are last dating back to 2016, I think. They have 5 runs of 40 yards or longer, and that's last in the NFL. Okay.
That's one a season, and I know DHB was one of those. And were there any other non-running back runs of that? McLeod was one of them.
McLeod was one of them. Remember, there's the third Edmonds brother.
Trey Edmonds. Oh yeah, it was against the Colts, wasn't it?
Yeah, the 50-something yards. The James Conner late in the game. Run against Denver, scamper. So, I mean, it's a shame that we're sitting here rattling them up.
We can remember.
And we can remember a guy like Trey Edmonds having one, right?
Yeah.
Because of it. So, once again, I'm going to ruin Christmas for all of you. Explosive plays matter. Matt Canada, in so many words, said, look, we know they matter. We're trying our best to get them. I don't, I understand why it's a continuation of what has happened these previous years of trying to catch short and run long. But where a lot of these things are going to happen are either broken runs or throwing the football down the field. And this team, especially if they somehow find a way to get into the playoffs, is going to have to find a way to start producing explosive plays. And that's something we unfortunately have talked about for more than one season now.
It's pretty clear, though, the Steelers' philosophy is to draft that bigger back. They would prefer the bigger back and the benefits of that as opposed to the longer runs. Le'Veon Bell was never the big play guy. James Conner was in college, but not so much in the NFL. And Najee Harris isn't that guy either. So it's pretty clear the Steelers aren't angling for a big explosive runs too much because of the way they drafted. They love the big power back.
Then don't spend a first-round draft pick on them, man. That's my philosophy on it. Period. I just think I think that they are lost in the big back world of Jerome Bettis, and look, it's
well, they want the workhorse. They want the big guy that can handle the load and be the guy, and it's hard to have a small guy handle all those jobs.
Yeah, but I don't like the philosophy. Hopefully, it doesn't come back to bite them. But they cannot continually give Najee Harris, 300 touches a season. Expect him not to miss games along the way. It's
sure.
If it does, man, super kudos to him and super kudos to them for the selection of that. It's just in today's NFL, you can't expect even the guys like Derrick Henry are showing issues with him. And here's a little news flash for everybody. Najee Harris is not Derrick Henry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't get the big playability that Henry was able to do.
That guy is a thoroughbred. That guy just when you see him break a run, you have to roll that thing back and watch it 10 times because it is amazing that a guy of his size and his build can run away from people the way he does.
Mm-hmm.
And Najee Harris is not that guy. Right.
And you're right. It is.
You get me in trouble with I'm going to get a lot more hate mail from this. But look, plain and simple, I don't hate Najee Harris. I hate that they had to spend a first round draft pick on a running back period that is not going to produce big plays for you. Period.
Sure, but there's still a lot of other value to be had. It's not just pass fail on big plays.
Sure, but also on top of it, I mean, what is the first thing when you talk about Najee Harris not having a great season? What's the first thing that people rebuttal that with?
Bad offensive line.
Right. So is it easier to chicken and egg this thing?
Or but it goes back to what offensive lineman were you going to take at 24? That was realistic. It was.
I would have taken. I mean, look, no, and it's unfair to do now. I mean, see, you take Creed Humphrey right there in the first.
Yeah, well, you take him in the second round. You're taking him over Pat Freiermuth, and I think that's the better argument to be made there.
Or is a better argument to have taken Creed and then Pat Freiermuth, and then address the running back, other ways.
Yeah, but then now you're just reinventing the whole draft, and I mean, we could do that. All day and have the perfect draft built 6 months after the fact.
Sure, but I mean, it's what we do. It's what there's no way of getting around that.
Yeah, well, I just try not to spend a lot of energy on. They could have drafted X.
I just worry: are we going to be here another 2 years from now, thinking, "Oh man, Najee's missing games. He's not getting explosive runs out of him. The offensive line's still not." What it used to be, or where it should be, that kind of thing there.
Yeah, no, I get that, and you're right. It is damning, but in no way surprising. Pittsburgh is last with the shortest long run of the year of 26 yards, which is still by Mason Rudolph. And Miami broke rank. They were in that camp with Pittsburgh until Myles Gaskin had a 30-yarder against, I think, the Jets or whoever they played last week, and so now Pittsburgh's all alone in the sub-30 club.
And look, once again, it goes back to, just the fungibility of the position with me. That's where I've always been on this. I don't hate the kid. I think, but in the same breath, you can look at that. You look at that Tennessee tape, and Najee Harris missed some runs, did he not?
Yeah, there was one that you posted last night about him bouncing a run when the hole was right there, which was the vision has been a bit spotty for him this year. I don't know if that's a volume thing. If you carry the ball 300 times, you're inevitably going to miss a hole or two, but that's something to work on for next year, I think.
I'm old school. I like to think of the Bill Parcells way of drafting when it comes to first rounds, but I have it slightly modified. All right. You draft a quarterback or you draft a guy that can protect a quarterback. And in today's NFL, that's not just left tackle, that's right tackle too, because they will find, it used to be you draft the left tackle, right? But that's no longer the case. So you draft either a quarterback in the first round, you draft a guy that can protect the quarterback, meaning a tackle, You draft a guy that can get after the quarterback, meaning an edge pass rusher. And then I've modified it to you draft a guy that can snap the ball to the quarterback.
Okay. Yeah, that is a new one.
All right. Because how important is it to have a great center in today's NFL?
Yeah, I mean, no one knows the value of a good center better than the Pittsburgh Steelers of Mansfield and Webster and Dawson and Pouncey and et cetera. So, yeah, I mean, that's I thought you were making a joke at first about green snaps, but yeah, it's hugely important.
Now, look, I mean, if you adhere to that philosophy, would you have not gotten guys like Ryan Shazier and Cam Hayward? I mean, obviously, the further you get down into a first round, you're going to be looking, I think, more at guys like that, even though Ryan Shazier was a middle first round guy. I don't think still that there's a lot of value in an inside linebacker, an off the ball linebacker in the first round, unless that guy is really a playmaker.
Yeah,
okay?
But again, my counter to that is you just want to get talent. I think if you get too hyper-focused on positional value, you don't focus on the talent, and these guys bust 50% of the time anyway. So let's just focus on getting guys that are going to help your team. And it doesn't matter if you draft a left tackle if he sucks as opposed to a linebacker that's less valuable. You just want to get guys that are going to help you and be there for the long haul.
Well, just so we're clear, you're going to, for however long you keep me on this show, I'm going, my mantra come draft time of what I would do would be those modified Bill Parcells rules.
Sure. No, I get that. I mean, obviously that's an ideal way to look at it, but sometimes the draft doesn't break the way that you would like it to, especially when you're picking in the teens, the 20s, where you're not top 5 and you kind of have your pick of whoever you want.
All right, is this the part where you say, okay, boomer?
Yeah, this is the part where we say, all right, Grandpa, let's go back, get your applesauce, get you in bed before 9. Yeah, we heard about the tackles.
Look, why are you booing me? I'm right.
Look at you. Ben, you got all youthful on me.
Don't boo me. I'm right. I mean, anyway, I do enjoy trolling people quite a bit with that on Twitter.
So I've noticed. All right, let's talk about Keith Butler. Not a whole lot Butler had to say yesterday in speaking with reporters. Was grateful for the play of Minka Fitzpatrick, Terrell Edmonds, what they've done. Obviously, Minka and Edmonds has had a solid season and played a particularly good game against Tennessee. So those guys making a bunch of tackles. They already have about 30 more tackles combined than they had all last year combined with 3 games to go. But they are playing pretty well.
Yeah, look, I mean, and Edmonds even spoke. I think Edmonds starting to smell himself a little bit more now, right? Judging kind of by the interviews that he's given lately. Probably one of them. He's not going to get the credit he deserves, and obviously a lot could go wrong with 3 games left in the season. But if there is one guy that probably gets poo-pooed on a lot since maybe his rookie season, that has made at least some, it feels like, and on tape, some marginal improvements throughout every year that it's been Terrell Edmonds. He's still not taking the ball. You want to talk about guys that make plays, first rounders and guys that you would expect to get certain things out of. He's never going to be that guy. He's never going to be the 5 forced fumble a season guy. He's never going to be the guy with a huge amount of sacks coming off the edge because of his timing and those kind of things. He's not going to be the intercepting, the guy that produces interceptions that way. But, he has, like it or not, he has made some small gains throughout his NFL career.
He has. They've been incremental. It's just, you're never going to get that big jump. It's going to be just small steps, small improvements. I still think in coverage and processing, it causes him to play slower than he actually is athletically. And so you've seen some small jumps and gains, but I think he's pretty close to maxed out at this point.
Sure. But within that, it goes back to our conversation, and I don't want to spend too much time on it. People are going to frame it the wrong way, saying we are predicting him to get re-signed. No, or at least not. What I'm saying is don't be surprised if he is re-signed.
Yeah, I know we had that conversation the other day, and so we'll see what happens. But, I think I think he's a solid scheme and system fit, and when you pair him next to a great playmaker like Minkah, it really works well. If your free safety was not a big playmaker the way that Minkah is, it probably wouldn't work because you need somebody in that back end who's going to make the splash plays, and so Minkah can be the splash play guy. Also makes a solid routine plays, of course, but Edmonds can kind of be just that reliable box, good tackler, physical player overall kind of a guy, and not a great cover guy because that'll be Minkah's job.
All
right, Dave, where are we at now?
What else did Keith have to say? Anything? I don't think I went through all that.
Yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot to discuss there, so we'll just kind of skip the rest here. And actually, I think it's a good time here to take a break, and we'll talk with our friend Adam Teicher, ESPN reporter, covers the Chiefs for ESPN. You can follow him on Twitter at Adam Teicher. Has a new book coming out, Kingdom, following the Chiefs Super Bowl winning season. You guys can buy over on Amazon. Dave, let's take a break and come back with Adam.
Okay, welcome back to the Terrible Podcast. It is Friday, and it is week 16 now of the NFL season. And this Sunday, at least scheduled to be this Sunday still right now, the Pittsburgh Steelers will play the Kansas City Chiefs on the road at Arrowhead Stadium on Sunday. With that, we are pleased to have back on the show once again. It's been a few years since we've had him, Adam Teicher, who covers the Chiefs for ESPN NFL Nation. Been covering the Chiefs for many years. I can remember way back before he even wrote for ESPN and all as well, too. But you can find his work on ESPN.com, obviously, underneath the Kansas City Chiefs section. He has a book on the Chiefs also he'll tell us a little bit about called Kingdom. And with that, Adam, welcome back to the Terrible Podcast on this Christmas Eve. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, and Merry Christmas to everybody.
Thank you, Adam. Listen, getting right to it here, the Chiefs, the Steelers too, for that matter, this week are having a little bit of COVID issues there. The Chiefs are starting to get a couple guys back. I saw where they got Ward and Chris Jones back from the COVID list yesterday. What's the feeling? I mean, obviously it's hard to predict these things, not necessarily knowing who is vaccinated, who is not, but is the feeling that the Chiefs are going to get a lot of these players back from the COVID list by Saturday?
Well, it would be kind of quick because, it's been less than a week since a lot of these guys have gone on. So, most of the guys they've gotten back this week, they've gotten, I think it was 5 players they got back, 4 or 5. Most of those guys were on the list last week and missed last week's game. So, Charvarius Ward, their cornerback, is the only guy who went on the list this week and is already back. So that's pretty quick to get back. So I don't necessarily understand all the procedures anymore for someone to get back in a short period of time. But so it's hard to predict. It really is. I'm assuming Chiefs, as we speak, have 9 names left on their COVID list. I'm assuming those guys, including Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, are going to miss the game on Sunday, but wow. It's certainly not too late for them to be back.
Right, and you're going to be obviously hard to kind of preview that kind of stuff when you don't know for sure whether or not you're going to have guys like Kelce or Tyreek Hill there. Look, a lot of people obviously know, a lot of the stars on the Chiefs here. Patrick Mahomes needs no introduction. Mike Tomlin praised him during his press conference the other day, saying this is a guy that can kill you not only with his arm but with his legs. Tyreek Hill, one of the most, if not the most explosive wide receiver in the NFL. Travis Kelce is like a wide receiver that plays tight end there. A lot of people, though, well, some Steelers fans do know him, but we want you to give us an update on that fantastic center, Creed Humphrey there. The Steelers were looking for a center during the draft this year. A lot of us, thought Creed Humphrey would be on that short list of players. Obviously, they went a different direction, drafting Pat Freiermuth in that round, and then the Steelers jumped on Creed Humphrey, and you're just on the tape. It looks like Creed's been absolutely fantastic. How have you seen him grow during his rookie season?
Yeah, he's been fun to watch. The Chiefs were delighted. I mean, they kind of had their eyes on him. They didn't have a pick until late in the second round, and they sort of had their eyes on him and were really hoping that Creed Humphrey would still be available to them, and sure enough, he was. So they were delighted to get him, and he's been he looks like a 10-year NFL veteran. I mean, he has from the day he walked in. I mean, he just is a guy who understands how to play the game. A lot of good coaching, obviously, at Oklahoma, and then that continued when he got to the Chiefs. But he walked in the door, and the Chiefs, they had a couple veteran guys who they could have started OTAs as the starting center, but they gave it to Humphrey right off the bat, and that tells you a little bit about what they think about him and what they thought he could be, and they've been right because excellent run blocker, very good pass blocker. I'm surprised he didn't make the Pro Bowl team. He did as an alternate, but not as a regular, which is kind of surprising because he's played that well this year.
Great. He's gonna have a chip on his shoulder this week then, huh?
Could be, yeah. I mean, but he's played well enough all season where he doesn't really even need that to play well.
It's safe to say the Chiefs' rebuilding O-line has gone much better than Pittsburgh's overall. Adam, to go back to some of the potential COVID replacements, if Travis Kelce, if Tyreek Hill are unable to play on Sunday, who are some of the next man up? Could Josh Gordon's role expand some? Is Blake Bell going to be an option? I mean, who are some of the next guys to look to? Hardman, for example, who are they going to count on stepping up?
Yeah, Blake Bell is on the COVID list. Their number 2 tight end is on COVID list as well. So they could be without their top 2 tight ends. The Chiefs have a 5th-round draft pick named Noah Gray, who showed a little bit in training camp and the preseason, but hasn't played a lot. And he's caught, I think, 4 passes, 1 touchdown this year. So he would be the guy at tight end, and the Chiefs will have to promote 1 or 2 of their guys off the practice squad to fill in at tight end. Maybe use their fullback some there. They've got a fullback who doesn't play a lot on offense by the name of Michael Burton. He might have to fill in some at tight end. So, the Chiefs have a few options, maybe none of them great, certainly not as good as having Kelce and Bell there. And at wide receiver, Josh Gordon missed last week's game. He was one of the guys who didn't play because he was on the COVID list, but he's back now. And it's time for him to step up. He's only has, 7 or 8 catches since he's been with the Chiefs. It just hasn't been a lot coming his way. And it just hasn't been a thing where it's really worked out for him so far. So, Josh Gordon's going to have to step up. They got McCole Hardman, who, is a fast guy who can do some things, can be a dangerous player, but has just been inconsistent from down to down. And they've got some lesser wide receivers, Byron Pringle, Demarcus Robinson, who can fill in and play, who have played a lot this year. Not a lot of production from any of those guys. So I've always wondered what it's going to look like without Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, and we might find out. I mean, the Chiefs have had 2 games without both those guys since they've both been with the Chiefs. Hill got here last in 2016. But you can't get a read on it because both of those games were games where it was the last game of the regular season. The Chiefs had their playoff seed clinched. Right. So they had a bunch of backups in. It wasn't just Hill and Kelce sitting out. It was a bunch of guys, including the guys who at that time were their starting quarterbacks. One time it was Alex Smith, and the Chiefs went with a backup quarterback by the name of Mahomes for the last game of the regular season, 2017. And then the last regular season game last year when the Chiefs rested Mahomes and a bunch of guys. So you can't get a good read on what this is going to look like. So I'm kind of curious to see what it does look like. I feel like the Chiefs, as long as they have Patrick Mahomes, are always going to have a chance. So.
Right.
Yeah, that's the big key there. Yeah, I was surprised to see a bit of a fullback used last week. Burton had a nice 7-yard touchdown run against the Chargers. I was like, what is this in this crazy Chiefs offense? But to go over to the defensive side of the football, I think it's been the more interesting part. We knew this Chiefs offense would turn things around after their slow start. That's no surprise. But the Chiefs defense, the first 5 weeks of the season, the worst in football, allowing the most points allowed. Since then, they're number 1 in football, allowing the least points in the NFL. What has Steve Spagnuolo and this defense done? Obviously, they traded for Melvin Ingram, kicked Chris Jones inside. That helped. But what overall has this defense done to have such a dramatic turnaround in the middle of a season?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things. First of all, they weren't quite healthy. They had a lot of guys dinged up and who were in and out of the lineup, or even when they were in, not playing really well. And now they're, COVID aside, they're in pretty good shape on defense physically. So that's one thing. Guys are just playing better. It's hard to explain. There's a lot of guys who weren't playing well for whatever reason early in the season who have picked their games up tremendously through the course of the season. You can point to any of several guys who would fit in that category on defense. And, another guy who's really helped the Chiefs out is Melvin Ingram since they got him from the Steelers. His stats aren't great. I think he's got 1 sack, but he's had an impact. I mean, his presence gives the Chiefs the chance when everybody's healthy and in there to rush the quarterback with 4 guys who at one point in their career had at least 10 sacks in a season. There's Ingram, there's Frank Clark, there's Chris Jones, and there's Jaron Reed. So the Chiefs can, do some things with their pass rushers. They really missed Chris Jones last week against the Chargers. Their pass rush was probably less productive than it had been in several weeks, but it looks like they're going to have him back and all their key pass rush pieces on Sunday. So that part of their game, I expect, will be back to what it's been the last few weeks before the Chargers game.
Yeah, we get a kick out of people scouting with the stat books and saying, well, look, Melvin Ingram hasn't done anything over there. I said, you got to watch the tape. That guy's a monster when it comes to pressures, and pressures are sometimes just as good as sacks, if not better. When you look at statistically the takeaway giveaway sheet and all like that, boy, the Chiefs have, I think 25 takeaways on the season, but lo and behold, I think they're net zero right now because they got 25 giveaways on top of it. So that was a bit surprising there. I've always been a fan saying sometimes wide receivers need interception stats and all. Obviously a few of these have been on Mahomes, kind of a little bit higher interception rate. But is that what you're seeing over here? A lot of these, how are a lot of these offensive turnovers happening, Adam?
Yeah, I think he has 13 interceptions, and there's been at least 5 or 6 that had been deflected to defensive players by receivers. They just dropped the ball, and a lot of those were catchable balls. I saw a stat, this was a couple weeks ago now, and I don't know what the update is, but he's thrown at least 4 or 5 passes that had, by whatever metric, whatever next-gen stat that however they gauge this, that had a 75% or greater chance of being caught by the receiver that have gone for an interception. So there's been some of that. I mean, the receivers have not played. Last week's game against the Chargers and the week before against the Raiders was an exception. But the Chiefs receivers have not played that well this year. I mean, that's been an underperforming group for the most part. Hill has had some big games. Kelsey's had some big games. But otherwise, this has been a disappointing group. They just have dropped some balls and not come up with some catches that you wouldn't call drops, but you expect an NFL receiver to get. And so it's been kind of disappointing. I feel like that was when the Chiefs were struggling through the middle of the year offensively, I felt like that was the biggest thing wrong with them, that their receivers just weren't getting the job done and needed to play better. And they have the last couple weeks, and so things have turned around for the Chiefs offensively. So that's something to watch on Sunday is, do the Chiefs, are the receivers not only getting open, but are they catching the ball when it comes to it? Because at one point they were leading the league in drops. And as we talked about, they've been deflecting the ball to the defense quite a bit this year.
How much does Andy Reid delegate there? We always had there's talk every year about Mike Tomlin. Does Mike Tomlin does he have too many hands in the pot? Is he trying to do too many things? Does he not, delegate enough and let his coordinators coordinate and all like that? Obviously, Eric Bieniemy is one of the probably going to get a head coach job here. I thought he would have had one by now, but it seems like he would be next in line this offseason. Steve Spagnuolo, obviously a very veteran defensive coordinator there. How much? But Andy Reid does. You see Andy Reid with the call sheet as well too. Sometimes on offense there. How much does Andy let his, how big of a hand does Andy have in game day situations?
A big one. He lets his guys work, but he is involved in everything. It's not like he just throws the defense into Steve Spagnuolo's lap and says, "This is your baby, sink or swim." I mean, that's not how he operates. He's involved with it. I mean, Spagnuolo and the defensive coaches do, a big share of the work, obviously, but Andy Reid's involved and he wants to know what's the game plan. why, and he'll make his suggestions in that regard. So he is involved on defense, although he gives a lot of the responsibility to Steve Spagnuolo. And on offense, yeah, I mean he's involved. I mean he's involved with that part of the game more than the other, for sure. I mean you'll see him a lot of times during the game. The game's going on, the opponent has the ball, and he's over on the bench talking to Pat Mahomes from time to time. So there are times where he'll take his eyes off the game to work with the offensive group. So that gives you a little bit about where he is, but he's involved with everything, and he certainly has his hand in all of the decisions that are made.
My last question for you, Adam, then I'll let Dave finish things out. Is Daniel Sorensen the guy to go after defensively? I know he struggled so much early in the season. Seems like things have gotten a bit better for him lately. Is that the number one guy to attack on the Chiefs defense?
Yeah, in pass coverage, particularly if you can isolate him down the field, that's going to be a gold mine if the Steelers can make that work. He was starting, Sorensen was, and playing 100% of the snaps for the first, I can't remember, 5, 6, 7 games of the year, and then the Chiefs made a change. They didn't bench him, but they took him out of the starting lineup. He still plays a lot, mostly in passing situations, and even once he was playing less than a full role, teams were still having some success getting him isolated one-on-one and picking on him a little bit. But that's changed now. Teams haven't been as good at that. Opponents haven't been as good at isolating him and getting him in one-on-one situations down the field. So he's actually made a few plays. He made a great play at the end of the first half, last play of the first half in L.A. Last week, that saved the game. The Chargers were up by, I think it was 1 point at that point, and I guess it was 14-10. But either way, the Chargers were down on like the 1 or 2 yard line. 3 seconds left, I think it was. He deflected a pass to a receiver who probably would have caught it that prevented a touchdown, and the Chargers came away from nothing. Ended up losing in overtime. So that turned out to be a big play in the game. So he's played a lot better lately, but you still wonder about him. I mean, teams were having so much success with that early in the season. When's it going to happen again? And can the Steelers be successful at finding that matchup and exploiting it?
Adam, let's wrap it up with this. You've obviously covered the Chiefs for a long time. I remember reading you way back, 15 years ago, I think, Kansas City Star and all like that. You've seen a lot of Steelers-Chiefs games. Is there one Steelers-Chiefs game that sticks out in your memory, from years past? And also tell the people about the book that you wrote. And I know it's hard to handicap at this point with so many people on the COVID list still, but how about a quick score prediction here to close things out?
Yeah. As far as Chiefs Steelers games, there haven't been a lot of great ones. It seems like this rivalry just hasn't produced a lot of. There've been some close games, but I think more ugly football than anything. I certainly remember the playoff game from 4 or 5 years ago now, where the Steelers kicked 6 field goals, didn't score a touchdown, and left Arrowhead with the win. You guys remember that one?
Right.
The Steelers stopped a 2-point conversion late in the game to win the game. And then, the Pat Mahomes game, you guys remember that one, his first start in Pittsburgh, I guess it was 2018, where he threw 6 touchdown passes. I mean, that's the kind of game that you just never forget. And for a while, the Steelers were keeping up with it, and it was a high scoring game. And then the Chiefs just ran away toward the end. So those are the 2 games, I guess, off the top of my head that really stand out between the Chiefs and Steelers, at least from the last 10 or 15 years. And my book is called The Kingdom. It's about how the Chiefs sort of turned things around, how they became this franchise that couldn't get over the hump and had a lot of bad teams, and the things that they did to get from where they were to where they are now. And you can find Kingdom on all the big websites, barnesandnoble.com or amazon.com and those kinds of places. And as a prediction, wow, this one's the toughest game of the year for me to predict. I mean, I always think I have a feel for what's going to happen in the game. I mean, a lot of times I'm wrong, but at least you think you have a feel. This one, I can't really get a feel. There's so many unknowns. So I'm just going to go with what we know right now, that the Steelers players who are on COVID list are not going to play, and I'm going to assume that the Chiefs players on the COVID list aren't going to play. So I'm expecting a game without a lot of fireworks offensively. I'll take the Chiefs to win maybe 20-16, somewhere in that neighborhood, but I don't have a great feel for this one for sure.
All right. We certainly do appreciate your time, Adam, especially with it being Christmas Eve on top of it. And we look forward maybe to talking to you again on the Terrible Podcast down the road. So with that, Adam, thank you for joining Dave and Alex on the Terrible Podcast today.
Hey, great stuff, guys. And again, Merry Christmas.
And welcome back to the Terrible Podcast. And again, our special thanks to Adam Teicher. Be sure to follow him on Twitter at Adam Teicher. That's Teicher. Give him a shout out on Twitter. Let him know you heard him on the Terrible Podcast. Appreciate his time, especially here on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, especially with it being on Christmas Eve. For him to do that means a lot. So make sure you holler out to him and at least wish him Merry Christmas or something on Twitter, and let him know that his time is appreciated there.
All right, Dave, let's you and I preview this Chiefs game. And again, as we discussed with Adam, there's a lot of uncertainty here about COVID guys and who's going to come off the COVID list and who is not. So it is certainly, I think, more difficult to discuss this game. But let's start with the Chiefs offense overall. They still have Patrick Mahomes. They're still a potent group. They're an offense that has certainly figured things out in a much better place. They've just really cut down on the turnovers over the last 6 weeks or so, just 6 over their last 6 games. And so stopping this Chiefs team will be difficult.
Boy, this has got to be the toughest one to handicap right now, right? Because, we know how good they can be, especially from an offensive standpoint, but yet they might not have their two, their two biggest weapons in Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. Now, here's the thing. They're not a team that runs, they pass the run, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now what happens if indeed they don't have guys like, to add on top of that, when they do run, they're not awful at it. In fact, I view them as kind of being a better running team this year than they were last year, for sure, because they lost, I think, Clyde Edwards-Helaire for a portion of last season. They even had didn't they have Le'Veon Bell in there for a little bit in there on top of it, and obviously their offensive line has been reworked. They got 2 rookies that are better than the Steelers. 2 rookies.
Yeah, they got 2 really good ones in Humphrey and Trey Smith.
They really do. Well, I don't think we mentioned Trey Smith in our talk with Adam Teicher, but this is a guy that was one of those quasi. Is he going to be a tackle? Is he going to be a guard? And had the heart.
Yeah, medical.
Medical kind of red flag, but you kind of knew that, boy, if this guy got past the medical concerns, he could potentially be a pretty good NFL guard, and that's the way it's looking like so far right now. So I guess the big question is going into this game is, if indeed they don't have Tyreek Hill, if indeed they don't have tight end Travis Kelce, maybe focusing more on the run with them won't necessarily be a bad thing for them.
Mm-hmm.
I bet if you polled their offensive line and said, "Hey guys, how would you like to just run block a lot this week?" They'd probably say, "Hey, let's have at it here, especially against this defense." And who is it? Merrill Hyde saying, "We get to play Devin Bush, or at least we think that they might not be able to. But even if they don't get a chance to play Devin Bush, the Steelers' inside linebacker group hasn't been great. Their front obviously going through some issues, potentially with injury this week as well too. Why would you want to try to run more than you had this season?"
Yeah, and Andy Reid's a smart coach. He knows what's going on. He knows the guys that he has and what Pittsburgh's struggles have been. And the Chiefs O-line overall is just a physical, nasty group. That's Smith, that's Humphrey, that's Orlando Brown. They will get after you. And so they're probably really yearning and telling Andy Reid, "Hey, let's run the ball 25, 30 times this week." And Edwards-Helaire's missed time this year, and whenever he's been healthy, he's run well. And so, yeah, you may see them run the ball well. And again, even if Hill and Kelce don't play, you got number 15 back there throwing the football, and that guy's just impossible to stop.
And even if they do have Hill and or Kelce and or both, it might be in their best interest to try to run. And what did Keith Butler say yesterday? I would. So, and look, if you could do some play action stuff off that, it probably wouldn't hurt the Chiefs to spend a week taking some air out of football a little bit, because you have to know that the Steelers, you would at least think, are going to try to keep a lid on things, right? You cannot have and they've obviously got weapons other than Tyreek Hill. But even if Tyreek Hill does suit up for this one, you worry about keeping the lid on things with him. So I think you're going to see a lot more shell type coverages with them, regardless of what happens, who plays, and that's going to play right into the hands potentially of the Chiefs running more. And they'll run a lot of that power stuff, and they'll put the fullback on the field, and they'll put two tight ends out there, whoever dresses theirs. So they're not going to be afraid to look at the tape and do some things that other running teams against the Steelers have had success doing, even as far back as last week.
It's a really great point. I know we think of the Chiefs as kind of this spread, throw the ball around the yard offense, but they can go heavy. They'll put on a fullback. They'll go, multiple tight ends. They run a lot of counter tray, and so they kind of run some older school stuff. And so I don't think you want to typecast this offense as just spread and throw the ball 60 times a game because they can get physical on you for sure. And even the return of Blake Bell is going to be important for them. He's a good blocker. Even does some quarterback sneaks on third down. He was a quarterback at Oklahoma, and so he's a big guy that'll go over center and do some kind of crazy looking stuff there. And so I think even if Kelsey does not play, obviously Bell's not going to replace Kelsey in the pass game, but in the run game, some insert block and stuff they do, there's actually some value there.
You can find on my Twitter feed, probably on SteelersDepot.com, and then probably on the podcast as well too, me talking about Blake Bell back when he was coming out. I really liked him as an all, not a premier all around tight end, but he was one of those ones that stuck out to me, thinking this is a guy that could play in the NFL because of his mainly because of his blocking ability. So if they get him back, if they at least get him back, and maybe not Kelsey back from the COVID list for this game, that'll be pretty big for them. That'll be yet another reason for them to maybe go a little bit heavy, a little bit more. Obviously, you're concerned about conditioning and how many snaps he can play. But if he's able to get in uniform, that's another reason to expect them maybe to put him on the end of the line of scrimmage and to expect some heavier formation runs. Yeah,
and I actually just pulled up your player profile on Blake Bell from 2015, and you said he has impressive upside and he can become a good blocker and fill out his body a bit. And I think you're right on the money with that one.
Hey, look at us. And I went back and looked, I couldn't stand it last night. Deebo Samuel had, and I went back and cheated and look at, just for.
I love Deebo coming out of college.
Oh, you did. You absolutely did love him. And pull that up real quick and pat yourself on the back. It is so great now. We've had this site so long. We've had so many great contributors over the years to be able to go back at a moment's notice and pull up some of these draft profiles and see how close some of the upsides are and what these players have become.
Yeah, I wrote on Deebo. I'm a big fan of this guy. Productive career, one of the best players, not just receivers at the Senior Bowl. He has the makings of an impact player. I called him an X receiver. He's kind of been an everything type of receiver. But I was a big fan of him coming out. I mean, my first words on him were explosive, dynamic playmaker. You want a guy who fits all those adjectives. Deebo Samuel is your dude. And so he's having a great career and just a great scheme fit too in that 49ers offense.
Look at us.
Look at us. Look at this Chiefs defense. I mean, how about a turnaround they've had? I mean, they were horrible the first 5 weeks. Like I said to Adam, they were the number 32 ranked defense in terms of points allowed the first 5 weeks of the season. Over the last however many weeks it's been, I think 9 games, they're number one. They only allowed 14 points a game over their last, I believe, 9 games. And so that turnaround there has been just really remarkable and a big reason why the Chiefs have turned their season around.
Let me take a moment after patting myself on the back to remind everybody that Chris Jones was a guy that I just did not get. I remember having DMs with you, and I forget who else was contributing for the site at the time that, man, I just did not get it with Chris Jones. Maybe it was the selection of 3 games that I watched or whatever, but I did not see the player in college in Chris Jones that everybody else saw that he has become. So, I mean, it does happen that you miss, I guess, but that guy's a monster. And now that, they have earlier this season, they were asking him to do things outside of what he's best at. You're playing him a little bit more on the edge, and obviously since they traded for Melvin Ingram, able to kick. Chris Jones is back doing the things that has made him the premier player in the NFL, and that's scary as hell when it comes to that defense.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons, along with them getting, obviously their edge rushers healthy and all like that. A lot of reason why they lacked, I think, at the beginning of the season was health. And not having guys in or out of position and all like that. And in the last several weeks, obviously from the addition of Melvin Ingram on, they have become, they got people back, and Steve Spagnuolo is able to do what he likes to do. And this is a guy that'll get after a quarterback in any situation. And zero coverage, right? I mean, he is not afraid to send guys and bring the sink with them. Type. He is a very pressure motivated kind of guy. And look, this defense right now, you have to be worried with Chris Jones in the middle of that defense going against the likes of Kendrick Green.
Yeah, along that whole interior is just going to be a problem, because I don't think any of those guys, Glue, Turner, Green, can really block that guy consistently. Few guys in the NFL can do that, but you're right. They're the eighth highest splits team in football, the Chiefs are, and so they'll bring pressure, and they got a great interior rusher in Chris Jones. So you're just worried about, can you win the point of attack? And that's going to be a big challenge for Pittsburgh, which of course has struggled so much against non-Chris Jones players in terms of just trying to win the line of scrimmage.
Once again, you're going to have you hope you get into a situation where, unfortunately, you're probably going to have to throw it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, right? You don't want Ben Roethlisberger to have to drop back and throw 40 times, but that might be the only way that the Steelers have any success at or chance at winning this game. A lot of if you do drop him back that much, then he's going to have to get rid of football quickly. So going to be a lot of box reading, a lot of RPOs. The key thing for the Steelers offensively, regardless of look, most of the questions when it comes to Kansas City and the COVID, I think right now this week is offensively who's going to be on the field. I think at this point we got a pretty good idea who's going to be on the field defensively for them. So you better not, Alex looked at several times this season. Alex has looked at the film and said, look, you already were handicapped because a quarter of the plays had no chance. Mm-hmm. Regardless of what the defense did. You look at the Tennessee game, and I think that's one of the good things that Tyler Wise kind of pointed out in this game. They only ran, 45, 48 plays, whatever it was there. A good 6, 7, 8 of them just had no chance. Mm-hmm. Because either quarterback reads, because of wide receiver decisions, because of failed blocks, you cannot waste plays in a game against a team like the Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, they wasted about 7, 8 plays in that game last week. And if you do that in a practice, that's a bad day of practice. You do that in a game, that's just horrendous. But defensively, I would define the Chiefs as a fast flow defense. They want to be aggressive. They really are aggressive on traps and following guards. So I think there are cutback lanes that are created there. So I think you do more perimeter runs and really try to look at that cutback lane, even a little bit outside of structure. Not maybe following that guard on that kick out block, but kind of cutting it back a gap or two. That might be a key. The Chiefs are missing maybe at least one guy defensively. Their leading tackler, Nick Bolton, their rookie, he's on COVID right now, so we'll see if he plays or not. But overall, this defense has improved by leaps and bounds since that first 5 weeks of the season.
Yeah, look, I mean, they're not the same team they were earlier in the season. People say, well, look, and we talked about this with Adam, right? Yeah, we know Ingram only has 1 sack, but that guy can wreck in other ways there, and he is good against the run. I think a couple times he's gotten caught kind of jumping inside a little bit there, but against this Steelers offense, you don't have to do that kind of stuff there. You just got to play and set the edge like you're supposed to do, and it'll probably end up stopping itself.
Yeah. I will say the Chiefs, I mean, they're allowing 4.7 yards per carry. They play a too high structure. So in theory, you should be able to run, but in theory, this team should have had, run success against many teams this year, and they just can't do it.
Right. And I mean, you got to try, obviously, here. And that would go a long way in helping the Steelers win this game if they were to have some semblance of a running game. Man, just stay out of the 3rd and 7s, 3rd and 6, or longer situations, because you were in just inviting getting off the field in one way or the other. A, because you have to hold the football and Ben takes a sack, or B, you're throwing short of the chains and them rallying and getting off the field here. So you can't have none of this 2 for what were they last week against the Titans?
2-12. Yeah,
that's not unless you get 4 takeaways, which I'm not going to bet on that happening this week here. That's obviously not going to be a recipe to win this thing.
Just real quick, I need to give you a stat on the Chiefs offense I forgot to mention. Number 1 third down offense in football, 52.7%. And get this, on 3rd and 6 or closer, the Chiefs convert 73% of the time. That's 10 points higher than second place. 73%, 3rd and 6 and closer. That is probably a historically good number.
Well, I don't drink eggnog, but if I did, I would probably start drinking it right now.
So yeah, that's the book on KC. Defensively in coverage, they're again too high team. Play a lot of cover 2, a lot of too high looks overall. I think you can try to run on them, but again, we've said that many a time this season.
Yeah, they can play that. If they're going to play that too high, you got to try to run on them. You got to try. You got to try. So you got to try that quick game. You got to try to do something that make Daniel Sorensen look bad on tape. Good luck with that. But he is what I mean is he. If there is the weak spot, like you pointed out in our talk with Adam, it's probably a guy like Sorensen. But how are you going to single a guy like that up, especially if you don't have a guy like Freiermuth and all? Are you going to try to hole shot these guys? Cover 2 hole shot? Or are you going to try to try that stick nod and up the seam and all like that? Would be another way to try to beat them, but we don't see the Steelers do a lot of that on a week in, week out basis. You're not going to get it done with James Washington in the middle trying to stick nod in a cover 2 or a Ray McLeod. All right, so take that for what it is.
And you need a calendar to time a Zach Gentry stick nod. It would take a while for him to execute that. The Chiefs overall, they're aggressive defensively, 25 takeaways this year. They got 9 players with at least 1 interception. They got 4 guys with 2 plus 4 fumbles. How about cornerback Mike Hughes? 4 forced fumbles. Say that 5 times fast this season. So, that's kind of a Marlon Humphrey territory for a corner there. And so, yeah, they're an aggressive ball hawking team. And
was he out? He was the UC. Was he the UCF?
UCF. Okay. Central Florida kid. Yeah. I think their first round pick a couple years back. So, and they're getting Ward back at cornerback, which is going to be important for them. So again, that defense has just kind of turned things around. Basically, the Chiefs have they've stopped turning the football over offensively, and they're creating turnovers defensively, and that's why they're back to being the same old, talented KC Chiefs.
And we didn't even mention the Honey Badger, I don't think, did we?
No, Tyrann Mathieu still playing great football. That guy's everywhere. Just overall, they play good, team defense. They rally, they pursue. Matthew's flying all over the football. He's got 3 picks. He leads the team this year. So, that's a guy you have to account for. Minka Fitzpatrick's a guy that's kind of easy to account for because you kind of generally know where he's going to be at. It's just tough when you throw it, to him. Mathieu, you never know where that guy's going to land up. He can be in the nickel. He can be single high. He can be deep half. And so you really have to know where 32 is at every single snap.
Absolutely. Good point.
All right, Dave, I think it kind of covers things pretty well. Just one other note offensively, you can't blitz Patrick Mahomes, right? You have to drop 7 into coverage and just pray. I think that's kind of the approach.
Exactly. You got to make them make the mistakes to get off the field, really. You got to put them in situations that they don't want to be in. Maybe get a lot of his interceptions this year should go on go on eligibles because of the way they've gone through the hands. You want to stay in your lanes for sure, and because if you send the extra guy, he's just going to run away. He's going to spin out of it and run away from it, and then you're going to get in a situation. Do you want to take a chance of Patrick Mahomes extending the play, doing something off platform, and giving his guys time to run away from Steelers guys in the secondary?
Yeah, Keith Butler made the note on Thursday. You don't want to get vertical as a pass rusher, as in you're getting past the junction point, past the quarterback's depth. Because if you get past Mahomes, he's going to step up, climb, then he's scrambling. And I think Butler said you don't want him to go to his right, which of course you don't. But this dude can go to his left and throw back to his right. It's just really tough to stop.
You got to have guys like TJ win, Alex Highsmith win, Hayward win. They can win, but they're going to have to do in kind of game-changing fashion and maybe strip that ball out, once or twice in this game. I like Watt's matchup in this game, but Mahomes is a guy that's going to be wary of that as well too, and try to escape it, run away from opposite way from him.
Yeah, rush lane integrity will be critical, and finishing the play, getting him down will be critical. And those things are, of course, easier said than done, especially when you're rushing 4. If you're not blitzing much, you got 4 with 5 gaps to account for against Mahomes. It's tough to do.
He is definitely, if you're going to put together a new age quarterback, I think Patrick Mahomes is kind of that guy.
Mm-hmm, for sure. Should note again, Butker, their kicker, is not going to be playing this weekend, so that's hopefully a benefit for Pittsburgh, having the better kicker overall. We'll see, but that's one note on special teams.
Yeah, I think the best case scenario is this gets into a kicking game where a kick, might decide it. I think that, if you got into that situation, that would be ideal for the Steelers.
Yeah, now they got a good punter, Townsend. I think he's a pretty good one. He sold a pass this year too, completed it. So just a little note there. Was at their 47 a couple weeks ago against the Raiders. So just a note there. Their punter can throw a little bit, but Harvin, of course, has to do a good job with field position, because the last thing you want to do is give Mahomes a short field. That just makes life even easier on him.
Yep, indeed.
All right, Dave, I think we should get to our picks for Week 16. I actually came back last night. I thought the Titans were going to screw me from a pick standpoint, although, of course, I would have preferred the 49ers to win that game overall, but the Titans got me on the board 1-0 this week. Before we make our picks, of course, let's hear from our friends over at MyBookie.
Yeah, last night I had the 49ers minus 3.5. You had the Titans plus 3.5. Jimmy Garoppolo owes me some money.
Please don't trade for him, Pittsburgh. I mean, that's like the one move I would not want them to make. I do not want them to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo.
You can win with a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo, but you better have a top 10 defense, and you better be ready for some silly turnovers. And he had one last night. Off target throw that really had no business kind of throwing where he did, and that, for lack of a better word, I think that maybe cost him the game there. I've always liked Jimmy Garoppolo. I think teams can win with him, but I think he's not the guy that you want to build around. You want to have a good running game, you want to have a good defense and all like that. I mean, I think teams can win with him, but he's not a marquee, obviously, guy that's going to bring you back, at the end of games, comeback wins. He's not going to be the main reason why he win games, I don't think.
Right. And I don't want to trade draft picks for that, because then I have to build the rest of my team. I don't have draft capital to do that anymore. So it's just, if he was a free agent, maybe, but still probably not, but I'm certainly not trading anything for him.
All right, MyBookie, from all the biggest games to the smallest events, make every bet worth your while with MyBookie. Start by doubling your first deposit instantly with MyBookie's first deposit bonus. Double your money before you even place a bet, and all you have to do is sign up and deposit using our exclusive promo code Terrible at MyBookie. There are tons of great games and prop bets to take advantage on this week. Look, bowl season's never been hotter right now, right? And our great Jonathan Heitritter is helping getting us ready every day that there's bowl games, just doing fantastic breakdowns of those to get you ready as well, too. So, look, if you're looking for something to bet on, you got the NFL, obviously. You got the NHL, NBA, you name it. You can find it at MyBookie, and make sure you use promo code Terrible on top of it. Don't wait any longer. Head to MyBookie today to redeem your double deposit bonus so you can get in the game and start winning big today. That's promo code Terrible to receive double your first deposit instantly in your account. No hassle, no wait. They've got a great app. They got a great online system there as well, too. So anything that'll handle your gambling needs online, make sure you go to mybookie.ag. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie.
Unfortunately, no bowl game today. It was canceled, the Hawaii-Memphis bowl game, but our report's still up from Jonathan Heitritter just to talk about the prospects who were supposed to be playing in that game.
All right. Let's see. Moving forward, we've got some Christmas football action. It seems like there's been football every day, pro football every day. Wednesday, I think, was the only day here recently. But on Christmas, the Cleveland Browns at the Green Bay Packers. Browns road underdogs, 7.5 point. Green Bay favored by 7.5 at home.
Yeah, got to go with Green Bay. Just too much firepower with that Browns offense. They need a weapon. They need a playmaker in the pass game, and they do not have that.
And, even if Myles Garrett plays in this one, I think his groin's going to be bothering him a little bit in this one. I'll take the Packers late to 7.5 in this one as well, too. This should be a good game. Indianapolis Colts at the Arizona Cardinals. Alex, this is a pick-em on the MyBookie board right now.
Is this in Indy or out west?
Out west.
Oh, man, I know Arizona's coming off that just horrible loss to Detroit. I have to think they bounce back. I don't want to overlook the Colts because, they're playing really good ball defensively with their run game. I'm going to go with Arizona, though, and say they bounce back.
Man, Indianapolis. Are you watching? You don't have HBO, do you? So you're not watching the Hard Knocks and all.
Mm-mm.
I normally that season's been. The Hard Knocks franchise in general hasn't been great at the last couple seasons, but they are. I really think they're doing a really great job with the Indianapolis Colts in season one. I really look forward to watching that every week. I think Frank Reich's doing a great job. They've got a lot of. That they have built that team right. Let me just put it to you that way. Darius Leonard just a freak on defensive side of football. Jonathan Taylor, fantastic, is a great compliment to what they're doing offensively. I guess what I'm trying to tell you is I'm taking the Colts in this game on the road. Give me the Colts outright in this pick'em game. Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the road against Carolina Panthers. What are we to think about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now getting shut out by the New Orleans Saints, losing the players we didn't even cover this the other day. The Killer Bees reunited in Tampa Bay.
I was trying to avoid that.
Some things you couldn't make up and put on a Twitter machine, even if you tried. But here's what's happening. You've got Le'Veon Bell getting signed this week by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to reunite, or Bruce Arians, obviously the head coach there, Brian Leftwich, the offensive coordinator, and Tom Brady at quarterback. So a new wrangled Killer Bees with the Buccaneers, another B there. Going to be interesting to see how this plays out here. They probably, if they wouldn't have had the injuries that they had at the wide receiver, I'm not so sure Antonio Brown would be part of that team right now. But Bruce Arians ain't no dummy, right? Buccaneers on the road, minus all these people, laying 10 points. They're not going to have Leonard Fournette, obviously Godwin and all like that. Minus 10 on the road against Carolina.
It's peak Florida, man, to have Bell and AB in Florida together right now. But yeah, even though with all the injuries to Fournette and Godwin, I don't even know what Mike Evans' status is this week. The Panthers in their 2-quarterback approach as Matt Rule desperately tries to cling to something. I'm going to go with Tampa Bay in this one.
I'm going to go with Tampa Bay as well, too. But when is the last time that a Super Bowl champion was shut out during the regular season and it not be like a Week 17 game or something like that?
Now you just wasted the rest of my day trying to look that up after the show. So, sorry, Mom, I'm not coming over for Christmas. I'm going to be researching this stat.
Blame Uncle Dave. Everybody else does.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm taking Tampa Bay at 10 points. I think you said you are as well.
Yep.
Too, there. New York Giants on the road against the Eagles. I tell you, one week I don't know what to think about Jalen Hurts. Think, no, kind of like that. What's that foreign drink gif where the girl shakes her head and she goes, "Oh well, maybe." Makes all those different faces there. That's kind of how I am with Hurts right now. Is 1 week I'm shaking my head, next week I'm rolling my nose, next week I'm raising my eyes, so maybe, and next week nodding my head yes. Or that's where I am with him right now. The Giants have quarterback issues, don't have Daniel Jones. What a mess they are. Eagles at home laying 10 points against the G-Men.
Yeah, it's hard to be that aggressive with G-Men when they're as bad as they are. And Jake Fromm might be starting. Yeah. It might, not as cool. It was cooler when Lawrence Taylor. That's
not the guy from State Farm either, right? Jake
wouldn't be much of a downgrade though. He's probably. I think the Jake from State Farm is the backup this week, and Jake Fromm's the starter. But either way, give me the Eagles.
Give me the Eagles later 10 points as well, too. Los Angeles Chargers on the road against the Houston Texans. Another 10-point game. Chargers on the road laying 10.
Yep, give me LA.
Give me LA, lay the 10. Detroit Lions on the road against the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons laying 6 at home against the Lions.
Man, I love Dan Campbell. I love MCDC. Oh, yeah, he's not lost that locker room. They love him. They play hard for him. I think they're struggling, but they're persevering. Give me Detroit in this one.
You twist them arm. Give me Detroit plus the 6 points there. Another game we'll be watching closely here. The Baltimore Ravens at the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't think they're going to have Lamar, are they?
It's looking like Huntley's going to make another start.
He did his best Lamar imitation, though, the last couple of weeks, though.
Is that a compliment or an insult? I get told that word. Sometimes.
I've always kind of thought that he's been a little bit underrated with Huntley. The Bengals laying 3. If you're a Steelers fan, you're rooting for the Ravens in this one, but the Bengals laying 3 at home. What's going to happen?
Yeah. Oh, this one's tough. Didn't they? I don't know. I'm going to go with the Bengals. My gut saying Cincinnati. I'm going to shut up and just say the Bengals.
I've got a bad feeling about this one as well, too. My heart wants to go with the Ravens here. My gut tells me I should pick the Bengals and lay those 3 points there. So maybe we'll reverse jinx them, Alex. But I'll have the Bengals -3 in this. Rams on the road against the Vikings. This should be a good one. Rams on the road laying 3.5.
Rams are really hitting all cylinders, though, offensively. No Dalvin Cook for Minnesota in this one, which is a big loss for them, and also for my 20-team fantasy league in the playoffs, and I just lost Dalvin Cook, so I'm going to love starting no one at running back. Anyway, I'm taking the Rams.
I'll take the Vikings to pull the upset here. I'll take the 3.5 points plus. I think they could win this one outright. Jacksonville Jaguars at the New York Jets. Nobody cares but the bettors. Jets laying 1.
This is the degenerates game of the week for sure. I picked the Jags.
I like that. I like that.
I picked the Jags to have their valiant moment, and they did not. They failed me last week. I don't even know the Jets, and who cares?
I'll take the Jaguars plus the point there. I think Jaguars can win this outright. Buffalo Bills at New England Patriots. This should be another good one. Patriots laying 2.5 at home. I doubt we're going to see 2 pass attempts or whatever it was from
3
or 3.
Don't shortchange Matt Jones an extra pass attempt.
Patriots laying 2.5 at home.
I want them to run the ball just 3 times this week as the ultimate troll. I doubt that'll happen. I still like the Bills a lot. I'm going to say that this is a foolish pick. I'm going to say the Bills get their revenge and they're going to win this one.
I'm going to go with you on that. That's my thought process as well too. Bills get the revenge. I want the 2.5 points. I think they can win this outright. Chicago Bears at the Seattle Seahawks. Another yawner. Seahawks at home laying 6.5. What the heck's up with Russell Wilson?
Yeah, it's been really tough. Justin Fields coming together a bit for him. Is this at Seattle? In Chicago, at Seattle. Man? 6.5? It's a big line. I don't know. Give me Seattle.
Give me Seattle. I think they bounce back. I think they blow them out. Nagy's gone. So, yeah, late at 6.5. Denver Broncos at the Las Vegas Raiders. Pick'em game.
Looks like no Teddy this week, right? It'll be Drew Lock, so I'm going to go with Carr and the Raiders.
I'll go with the Raiders and a pick'em game at home as well, too. Washington football team at the Dallas Cowboys. Not a big line. Dallas Cowboys laying 10.5.
I think Washington finds a way to cover. They're getting some of their guys back, but Dallas still wins. But I'm going to go Washington to cover.
I will go Dallas to cover this one and the 10.5. That brings us to the only game that right now that's not on the board. I believe. Let's see. Do we get all of them here? I know some of these ones have been off the board in the past. We've had to circle back. It looks like we've. Wait a minute. Miami, New Orleans, right? We haven't gotten that one. That one's not on the board right now. The consensus line on that is Miami laying 2.5 on the road. We'll go with that. Yeah,
give me the Dolphins. Ian Book making his first career start. At least we presume so. So give me Miami.
Give me Miami as well, too, to lay the 2.5. So I think that now brings us back to the game off the board right now. The lines tighten up with this, obviously probably COVID-related here, but a consensus line that I have right now is Chiefs at home, laying 8.5 against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Am I going first to pick this one wrong again? Because I've been getting really good at that lately. I'm going the Chiefs in this one. Short answer. I think they will get back to that run game some. It's a physical Chiefs offensive line. And given that Chris Wormley probably won't play this weekend, it's only going to compound things even worse. I think just trying to contain Mahomes is going to be tough to do. They're so good on third down. They're an efficient offense. They're taking the football away. They're not beating themselves. And so I got KC winning this one 27-20.
I have it 28-17 written down here, even regardless of who plays. I just think that the Chiefs will be smart if they don't have guys like Kelsey and Hill to run the football on the Steelers and then, stay out of bad third down situations. And I just, that defense of theirs is probably one of the better ones the Steelers will have played these last several weeks, to be quite honest with you. And even though the Tennessee defense not bad, I think they've done a lot of good things over there. Got guys healthy, got guys in right spots there. That worries me as well too. So it would be a huge. Would it be the? I mean, it would. How would you look at this if the Steelers somehow managed to win this game? Would it be the new biggest win of the season?
Yeah, I mean, what would top it?
I mean, the Buffalo game, I guess, earlier in the season.
Yeah, but even then, it was like the first game you didn't know exactly what kind of feeling teams out and stuff. I mean, to do this in KC, I mean, I know if Hill and Kelsey don't play and the Steelers win, there'll be the qualifiers for that, but I don't really care. I mean, if they get this win on the road, tough place against Mahomes still, I mean, it's the biggest one of the year. And again, to give them the context of it as well. Yeah,
look, this is a tough place to play, too. You worry about the mistakes of the Steelers. I mean, what'd you call it? The mosh pit, the Steelers run game mosh pit. I mean, just so much wrong on the offensive side of football. And they even had 4 takeaways against Tennessee and still almost lost that game there. You got to make plays on offense here to win this game for the Steelers, and I'm just not convinced they can do it. So I have KC winning this 28-17, 11 points.
This is a bad Steelers offense against a great Chiefs offense, and even if they're missing some pieces at the core, they're just a fundamentally better offense in Pittsburgh. And so when the Steelers are averaging 19 points a game and trying to win against KC, really tough to do.
I mean, we've one of us has been wrong these last several weeks. Now it's going to take both of us to be wrong, I think.
One of us has been wrong, and it's been the guy talking right now. I appreciate the way you frame that. That made me feel better.
I'm always trying to help out my contributors and fellow workmates here. All right, what else do we have here?
What kind of politician answer was that? Let's get to read your Mos and close out today's show.
I'm just not trying. Look, we were neck and neck on picks, though, so I got to be careful rubbing it in because we are neck and neck kind of in our picks.
Yeah, I'm the human betting equivalent of a coin flip. So if you're neck and neck with me, then that would not be problematic for you.
All right, let us get to some emails here. PFF has rated Moore in a core 4 much better than the last 4 or 5 games. A lot hinges on these last 3 games, but it seems they could be the tackle tandem of the future. Is a core 4 unrestricted, and what do you think he could go for on the high end? A core 4 is set to be unrestricted, and he'd be foolish not to test the market, to be quite honest with you. And it makes you kind of wonder if the Steelers will be able to compete with that. And in today's NFL, they will overpay for at the right tackle position. So I kind of wonder if the Steelers, where they value a core 4 might not meet what other teams might value a core 4 at, if that makes any sense here. So I haven't given much thought as far as a price tag on a core 4.
Yeah, I was asked in my mailbag yesterday about this, and I really wrestled with that because anytime a young tackle comes to the market with some decent-ish tape and some starting experience, it's going to be worth some money. I mean, Banner got paid $4.5 million for not much on his resume. Is $7 million the right number? Is it $8 million? I said like $7 million for a core 4, maybe a 3-year, $21 million deal, something like that. Is that ballpark? Am I too low on that?
I mean, you look at top 15. I mean, you got guys like Alejandro Villanueva in right around the top 15, around $7 million.
Yeah.
Right. Riley Reef, $7.5 million. And then once you get to Billy Turner with the Packers, it's $7 million. that sounds about between, and you mix in a little bit of maybe inflation and supply and demand, and
cap going back up a bit,
and supply and demand and free agency, right? Because there's only going to be X amount of decent tackles. I mean, it might sound silly, but is $9 million out of the question?
If two teams start bidding, but I think you would probably say at least around $7 million then, and then from there it could go up. At
least $7 million, but nobody's going to send a core four to the Pro Bowl or make any argument, but there is the whole supply and demand, and you hate to throw out the analysis as he hasn't been awful, but he's actually been, I mean, as far as the offensive line goes, he's probably been the best on the offensive line so far this year, right?
Over the course of the entire season, I would agree. And I think the last month or so, both tackles have played well. I think Moore has really come along the last 3 games. Since the Ravens game, I think he's really come on strong. And so you're seeing improvement there. And Okorafor has played just fine the entire season. Not terrible, not great. So, I think $7 million is probably the conversation starter in the offseason.
Right. So that's write that down, and then we'll revisit that once we get into the offseason and start and look, get a broader picture of the free agents and which of these guys are likely from other tackles around the league that might get the franchise tag. But I mean, it might come into a situation where a guy like Okorafor is like the third best free agent tackle on the market, right?
Could be. I mean, it's so rare for those guys to get out in the market. So when they do, people jump on them.
And I know people are probably screaming saying, you guys are nuts, but we've done this enough times that we tend to have a pretty decent grasp of these kind of things here. We'll see how that plays, but that's at least where I'm at right now. And I guess Alex is too. Bryce writes in, among the defensive line moving forward, should activate dress the 2 Davises along with Adams, Loudermilk, Cam, and Worley, and that's your rotation for better or worse. Every other defensive lineman should be a healthy scratch. From there, you match whatever schemes, playing time, and rotation that fit those 6. Your thoughts? My thoughts would be the guys that are healthy, we're going to have the discussion every week. Unfortunately, maybe COVID related or what injury related of which guys to dress. Obviously, Cam, you're going to dress him. Wormley, if he's healthy, you're going to dress him. It looks like Carlos Davis is as long as he's healthy is going to be a weekly 5 guy now. Loudermilk's another one. Then I guess it gets into Adams and Bugs and stuff like that. And I want Adams in a uniform before I want Bugs in a uniform.
Yeah. So is he asking for this week or just overall?
He's just saying moving forward. He says they should activate dress the 2 Davises. We'll obviously see what happens with the other Davis, but I think it's going to take a little bit to get that other Davis in uniform.
He's been here for a while, but does anyone know about a thing about Khalil Davis in the NFL? I don't. I mean, I saw his Nebraska tape, but that was it. So you got 5 guys on game day when they're healthy: Hayward, Wormley, Adams, Loudermilk, and
the other Davis, right? Or
probably Carlos Davis. Yeah, I mean, Mondo's been getting the hat, so we'll see. But it goes down to Davis and Mondo for that last hat.
And you might not have a choice but to give Mondo a helmet this week, right? Well, let's see. What's it?
You're going to have to. Probably, yeah. It's going to be Hayward, Loudermilk. Let's assume Adams, Davis, and Mondo, who's left.
All right, here's a Najee part of Bryce's question. Dave, you said you had some regret about choosing Najee with the number 1 pick, and I understand that. However, Najee was the best choice this year at the pick. The pick I believe we should be questioning is actually Freiermuth with our second choice. I like the player, and I like Najee. He's been really good, but there were other offensive linemen on the board that we could have taken that may have been more needed. Look, this will be continually, thrown at me. I don't hate Najee the player. He was the number 1 running back on my board. That doesn't mean I was fine with taking him in the first round because of the whole position the whole fungibility of the position and all like that. And if you want to get into Humphrey versus Freiermuth, have at it. I still contend that knowing what you know now, you can make the argument that you go Humphrey, Freiermuth, and then I don't know, best running back on, running back on the board in the 3rd round, maybe. to attack it that way here. I just worry about Najee, the type back that he is, the fungibility of the position, the workload, all that crap that goes along with it. So push come to shove, knowing what I know right now, I'm not drafting Najee in the first round. I'm drafting Creed Humphrey the way Alex said it should have been done.
Yeah, listen, no one was a bigger fan of Creed Humphrey than I was, and I advocated for the idea of taking him at pick number 24. But I just know, no offensive lineman went after the Steelers pick until early in the second round, like 12 picks later, with Landon Dickerson, who had a bunch of medical concerns. So to me, the debate's less about Humphrey versus Harris as it is Humphrey versus Freiermuth, because Humphrey was on the board right there when the team took Freiermuth, and Humphrey got selected by KC, I think three spots later. So to me, that's the, if you want to debate something, that's the conversation to be had: Pat Freiermuth versus Creed Humphrey.
Well, I want to make sure I secure Humphrey. So I knowing what I know now, I think you could highly justify taking Humphrey in the first, taking Freiermuth in the second, and then I don't know, Ramondre Stevenson. Take your pick at third round, and then you re-sign James Conner for $1.75 million, and then hope that you get more than 10 games out of them because of injuries,
Sure. And I get that. But again, the point is you got two talented players in Harris and Freiermuth. And I don't want to overlook that because most teams will not be hitting on their first two picks this year.
All right. I just, if I'm allowed to reverse engineer it, that's why, and those will continue to be Dave hates Najee. I just hate the aspect that you spend a first round pick on a fungible position. I don't know how many times I got to say that, but I will continue to remind people that Najee Harris is not an explosive play runner. You can bet your ass on that, however it turns out.
Noted. Very much noted. I'm scared.
All right, let's see here. Charles Munger writes in. Wait, that's a little bit older there. Let me. Oh, you know what? I don't have it sorted right here. Let me sort this the correct way. Lenny writes in. Yeah. Lenny Barsikowski writes in. Dave, when do you think the Steelers will come out and tell us what Tuitt's issue has been this year? Maybe some point during the offseason, Lenny. I don't know. Maybe some of it's private. I don't know. Lenny says, I know him missing along with Alu has greatly affected our run game. After the season is over, I predict Art Rooney says we need to stop the run, and our draft order is inside linebacker, defensive tackles, safety. Also, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you and Alex. Thankful for Steelers Depot for being a big part of my happiness in my life. Well, thank you for that. Build a statue for Tomlin if they make the playoffs. Lenny adds in here. Look, I wish we could provide more insight on what's happening with Tuitt, but we just can't.
Yeah, I don't have any insight there. I wish I did. I don't. He's not playing this year. We'll see what happens in the offseason.
Art Rooney, as far as the directors Art Rooney's going to have this offseason, it's going to be the SpongeBob. Write that down. Write that down, because it's not, to me, it's more than it's going to start with, didn't I tell you guys to fix running game? It's going to start there, but there are so many different ways you can go from there. And yes, stopping the run is one of them. Boy, what a huge indictment it would be if they drafted an inside linebacker again in the first round.
Yeah, but I don't know if it has to be first round, but do you want to run it back with Bush and Schobert next year?
No.
I mean, and get the same results? No, not really.
What about that GIF you posted yesterday? How come you don't get the pushback that I get the pushback? When I bang on Najee missing a hole or Devin Bush, I get death threats. You get people wanting to send you flowers. I
don't know. Maybe I have a gentler touch about these things.
No.
Never.
I mean, what'd you think about that play? People trying to say, well, the crack back and all. Bull crap. That guy was headed toward the ground before he ran into any of that traffic. He got hit. He got hip tossed, didn't he?
Yeah, by the backup left guard, no less. Wasn't even the starter. So, yeah, I mean, again, Bush has made some plays in coverage, but in the run game, it's been more the same, which has not been pretty.
I mean, do you seriously consider going after a running back in the first two rounds? I mean, not running, inside linebacker?
Yeah, I'm not turning down the idea. Absolutely not. It's not, maybe I'm not honing in on it, but it's certainly possible.
All right. Let's see. Moving on. Our buddy Ashley Bright's back. Happy holidays, Ashley. Good to hear from you. Thanks, Dave and Alex, for your journalism and dynamic analysis daily. He's using that J word on us. We are not. Actually, we are not journalists. Your insight and passion make it a blast for us to follow. We are passionate, I would tell you that. Dave, every now and then, I hear a sound of some Chris Farley language, pace, and words from you. It's classic and entertaining stuff. I love Chris Farley. How can you not love Chris Farley? Especially some of that stuff down by the river. One of the greatest skits of all time, I think, on Saturday Night Live, with them doing that down by the river stuff and all like that. Questions: do you think if the Steelers played their best 60 minutes of their talent and teamwork that they can beat anybody, or do they just not have the talent win even at their best? Number two, I think Humphrey Freiermuth debate will be there for a long time. They fell in love with Freiermuth when he was available in the second and felt Green, a third round, could be the next Pouncey. Time will ultimately tell if Green does not progress in the final games. Do they move on with stiffer competition at center next year? Thanks again. Also, my son and I are going to our first ever home Pittsburgh game, flying from Kiesel Country in Wyoming against Cleveland next Monday night. Good for you, Ashley. Going to first ever home Pittsburgh game there. Steelers absolutely would have to play a perfect 60 minutes of game in their talent to beat anybody in the NFL, the anybody's.
Yeah, I mean, if it all comes together, it looks nice, but it's just so rare. It's been so fleeting this year. And again, offensively, they just don't have a lot of firepower. They don't get enough big plays. And so it's hard to keep up and score a lot of points, as you have to do to beat the best of the best in the NFL. So, yeah. The last thing, and Ashley brought up the point about, Freiermuth versus Humphrey, it didn't feel like this team had much interest in Creed Humphrey in the pre-draft process, and which is of course we don't know what their grade was and all that, but just the tea leaves didn't even suggest there was really much interest there, which is maybe the most baffling part of all.
It felt more like Landon Dickerson than it did than Creed Humphrey, and Landon Dickerson had a lot more medical flags. But I mean, kudos to you. You stood by. You said Humphrey is a guy that people should be getting excited about. And, he's PFF's leading graded center right now.
Yeah, so. Tomlin just wanted a game-ready center, so they drafted a guard from Illinois as a redshirt junior and said, "You're ready."
Easy now. We're not. It's the holidays. All right. Let's see here. Yeah, look, Ashley, you want to debate? I think my debate of Humphrey over Najee Harris and you stick with Freiermuth in the second can still be substantiated at this point. But the milk has been spilt, if you will. Good to hear from you. Ashley's been with us a long time.
Definitely.
Clayton Closser writes in, love the show, guys. I feel like I remember some chatter before the Minka trade that he was upset about the amount of time Miami had him in the box or in run support more generally. I felt Tomlin's praise of him on Tuesday was a bit out of character for him. He really heaped it on. Look, I mean, Minka deserved that praise for the way he had to, play in that game against the Titans there. Anyway, I'm hoping it's nothing, but I wanted to get your thoughts. Any chance Minka's unhappy with his role this year? I think Minka has grown up this year, if that makes any sense. I think Minka knows that as much as he would like to be tied to the post and sit back there and have 7 interceptions a season, and make an occasional shoulder tackle, that's just not the way it's going to go down. And yeah, there was the rumblings about him. And was he maybe misused in Miami? Yeah, I think you can make an argument about that. But a good safety in today's NFL is going to have a level of versatility where, as Alex talked about, Honey Badger, man, you don't know where you're going to get Honey Badger show up on play for play. If Minka can become that guy, he's going to become an even better player, I think. Now, yeah, obviously he's not going to like playing, and you shouldn't have to play him 30% of the snaps down within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. But there are going to be some matchups where that might be the thing to do. I think overall you're seeing a maturation process of Mika saying, yeah, I guess I'm going to have to do this on occasion. And I think that's where he's at. I don't think he's unhappy with his role. I think he's just coming to the conclusion at the NFL level that sometimes you got to come down there and do some of that dirty work.
I would say the first 2 weeks aside, his role has been unchanged this year to last year. He's making a bunch of tackles, but he's not doing that from a strong safety spot. He's doing it from his free safety spot, but just having to come down and make the tackle. I think he's frustrated about having to do that so consistently and how bad this run defense has been. So I don't think it's a frustration over his role, just a frustration over how bad this defense has been stopping the run. But I'm okay with him just playing in his current role. They tried to move him the first 2 weeks of the year. He was not comfortable, did not play well because of it. And so I don't think he'll ever be the Honey Badger Troy type where he kind of bounces around. And I'm okay with that because he's played really good ball in his current role.
That is from Clayton from Dover, PA. Where's Dover in relation to you? Is that near Philly?
I think that's out east, yeah. But that might be from was it Claus? What was his last name? A little Santa reference there, maybe.
Kozora, Clawser. Clawser.
Where is Dover, PA? I thought it was out east.
I thought it was near Philly or something. Maybe I'm wrong.
York County. Oh, if I knew my geography. Looks southeast PA.
All right.
Should we give? Well, hopefully we didn't dox him. He's fine. Dover's a small town. Anyway, okay. move on there.
All right, John Weissiser, right from Fort Myers, writes in, as the Steelers grind toward the end of a rough season, like Dumb and Dumber, we're telling each other they still have a chance at the playoffs by either running the table or beating the Browns and the Ravens in the final 2 weeks. This notwithstanding, they are still a team with a myriad of problems. They absolutely are, John. I would appreciate your views on the core priorities to address as we begin to look toward 2022. While the problems are many, in my view, the priorities need to focus on the trenches and inside linebacker areas of the team. All Super Bowl teams are strong up the gut. Look at Tampa Bay, plowed through KC in last year's championship game. Further, the Steelers are lacking a wideout with blank speed to spread and extend the defense, which will help break up single high coverage and other teams loading the box against run. Also, remember, John, if you get one of those guys too, it kind of helps out a guy like Diontae not see so much double or bracket coverage. While it appears obvious that Ben is planning to walk, I do not believe the core priority should be quarterback, particularly in an arguably weak 2022 draft class. Aaron coming to Pittsburgh is seemingly a pipe dream. John, I don't know what kind of, you kind of have as good a grasp on it, as anybody there. The answer to your question, do you have priorities for the Steelers to address or begin to look forward to in 22? The answer to that would be yes.
Yeah.
This team's going to, like it or not, it's going to be tougher to gauge because where do you throw your own free agency mud up on the wall at? I.e. Terrell Edmonds, Chukwuma Okorafor. Where do you throw outside free agency mud at in this thing? And with low draft capital, where do you throw the mud at from a draft perspective? It's going to take some really sitting back and looking at this thing once the season ends and saying, okay, I think that they're going to go this way with their own free agents. I think they're going to maybe go this way in the draft. I think they're going to go this way in outside free agents. Because there are a lot of holes that need to be addressed in this team, I think.
Yeah, but I agree with the reader. It starts in the trenches. Running the ball, better offensive line, better run defense. And some of the run defense might be guys getting back healthy. We'll have to see what happens with Alu and Tuitt in 2022. But that's where it starts. Inside linebacker play. Sure. That if you want to centralize something, that's a space to do it.
If I told you right now Linderbaum was your first-round draft pick, you can have him, no questions asked. Are you signing up for it?
Yes. Today.
I am too. Tomorrow, yesterday, day before yesterday, and then I worry about what happens with. Then I think I might. I got to get me a guard, I think, in some way, shape, or form. I might address that in free agency, I think.
So Kendrick Green's playing left bench next year?
I'm moving the fullback.
I'm not mad about that. You're moving the fullback?
I'm moving him. You think I'm kidding? I almost am there. Once again, I don't, we'll see what happens with him, get into 5-6 games in the season, but it's open competition. He is not going to start just because he was a 3rd round draft pick. I will leave it at that.
Yeah, I get that. I'm with you.
And once again, John, there are a lot of holes in it. It's way too early to get really specific here. I like the idea of the speed wide receiver, no matter how you get that, whether it be draft, free agency. I think there's a guard, a center that needs to come in the house some way, somehow. What's going to happen if they lose a core 4? Do they trust Banner enough to be that guy over there? I think you might have to look at that at free agency as well. What's going to happen at safety? What's going to happen at inside linebacker? Can you trust Alu and Tuitt will be back? There's so many questions that still need to be answered here. John, go ahead.
Rosa, just real quick with Banner, unless you are going the offseason, assuming that he's going to be your slam dunk starter, how can you justify his contract unless you assume that, this is our guy, he's starting at right tackle, we're not even going to try to add competition. If you're not in that approach, then I think you have to probably cut him.
Bless his heart. I mean, but how many snaps does this guy have at a tackle position in the NFL? And can I, with his injury history now, and the fact that he owes that you're going to have to pay him $5 million, that's not enough for me to keep him right now.
Yeah, I mean, I feel for the guy. I like the guy. He's had just a horrible string of luck, but if he's going to be a backup, he'll be a backup right tackle only. They've admitted he can't play left tackle, and so $4.5 million for a backup right tackle and right tackle only it's not worth it.
$5 million for his 50 snaps that I have to watch on tape against the Giants is not enough yet.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the reality of it.
Hank Moose writes in, hey guys, who would you bet has a better career based on what you've seen so far, Dan Moore or Kendrick Green? Boy, this is easy.
Teeing that one up down the middle for Dave.
Yeah, crack line drive up the middle. Dan Moore, man. I don't think I'm going to get much of a pushback from the Alex Kozora on this one.
Yeah, Dan Moore. I mean, I think Moore's had his struggles. I think at times that they've been kind of overlooked and forgiven because of Green's issues have been more magnified. But I think Moore's playing really good football the last 3 games, and so I feel more optimistic about his future. Again, I understand the context that Green's making more of an adjustment, more of a change, and they're asking. I mean, Ben said they asked Green to make line calls, so they're really putting a lot on this guy's plate. Probably almost it's kind of like Sean Davis his rookie year or second year when they moved him around a lot instead of just keeping him in one spot, and so they probably are overloading Green, and I think you need to take that into account. But just pound for pound, tape for tape, Moore's playing better.
That's a Christmas curveball to end things here, or a hanging curveball from Hank Moose for us. Let's use that as a get-off point here, Alex. And look, guys already have a great couple offensive and defensive breakdowns of the Kansas City Chiefs previewing that game up on SteelersDepot.com. Boy, Tyler Wise has got the film room out there. Tell everybody what's up there right now, Alex.
Yeah, we have our scatter reports.
Clayton coming with an article later this afternoon. Go ahead.
Yeah, have this stuff in Clayton, which is always great and analytical and always a interesting read there. Tyler's doing the video breakdowns. He was doing them in article written form, but I like the video version. I think it kind of explain and show some of that stuff better. Got scouting reports up. You got TJ Watt speaking with the media now, and a great article from Matthew Marksey about how Ryan Clark says Dick LeBeau still does the night before Christmas on Zoom calls with former players, which is just the wholesome story that 2021 needs.
Just think how great Steelers Depot would be if you were able to get rid of me. All right, with that, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex Kozora at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at, by the way, we got everybody credentialed for the Shrine Game and Senior Bowl as well, too. So hold on to your draft hats, if you will, because you're going to guys are going to blow you away with some content this off season here. Follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. Also, if you'd like to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button upper right navigation bar. If you want an ad-free version of the site, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button for $25. You can have that. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, all that. Regardless of how you celebrate, or if you don't celebrate, have a safe end holiday season here. We appreciate everybody listening. So with that, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.